Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce.
The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Hi, I'm Bob from Crane Appliance. Since 1983, as a family-owned company, our goal has been simple: to give our neighbors of the Cape and Islands a great shopping experience. Rest easy knowing our professional team will listen to your needs and help you pick out the perfect appliances. We'll take care of everything throughout the sale, delivery, and installation process. And we even have our own in-house service department. Crane Appliance, we call the Cape and Islands home.
Carlson Printing for all your printing needs. 508-548-7303 or toll free at 1-800-696-7303. Our email address is carlsonprinting@aol.com. Carlson Printing for all your printing needs.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.
Convene an open session and go directly to executive session to discuss union negotiations with FC Unit A, B, and C. And we will return at 7 o'clock or when we resume our business shortly thereafter.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Patterson, we need roll call?
Yeah, I guess so. Roll call.
Scott Price, aye.
Patterson, aye.
English Braga, aye. Taylor, aye.
And Brown, aye. And that's here tonight, and I'd like to start the meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd all join me, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Proclamations, Police Week.
I'd like to read that one.
Pardon me?
I'll read that one.
Okay, go ahead, thank you.
Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officer Memorial Day and the week in which it falls Police Week. And whereas the members of law enforcement agency of the town of Falmouth play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of the town of Falmouth. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas the police department of the town of Falmouth has grown to be a modern and scientific law enforcement agency which unceasingly provides a vital public service. Therefore, we, the Select Board, call upon all citizens of the town of Falmouth and upon all patriotic, civil, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 15th through 21st, 2022 as Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies in which all of our people may join in commemorating police officers past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities and, in doing so, have established for themselves an inevitable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. Further, we call upon all citizens of the town of Falmouth to observe Wednesday, May 18th, 2022 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, have lost their lives or have become disabled in the performance of their duty, especially our own officer, Samuel F. Pierce, who lost his life in the line of duty on August 16, 1933. I further call upon all citizens of the town of Falmouth to observe a moment of silence on Wednesday, May 18, 2022, in their honor. In witness thereof, we, Douglas C. Brown, Nancy R. Taylor, Samuel H. Patterson, Megan English Braga, and Angela Scott Price, hereunto set our hand and cause the great seal of the town of Falmouth to be affixed on this 9th day of May, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And please note that on Wednesday, the 18th, the police memorial will be gathering at the police memorial for remembrance of those lost from the police department, including Samuel Pierce. So it's 9 o'clock on Wednesday on the 18th, if you want to join them.
Thank you, Bob.
And next, we have a proclamation for Eagle Scout James Walden. Anyone like to read that?
Do you want to read it?
Sure. It's a little after the fact, but.
It is.
Since
Better
his-
late than never.
His court of honor was Saturday, and I see I see the Walden family back in the back there. So, James, this is our chance to congratulate you, and I'm sorry, I know most of us had a conflict on Saturday and weren't able to get to your court of honor. Let's see, excuse me, let me get the right page. Thank you.
Welcome.
Whereas James Walden of Boy Scout Troop 38 has successfully completed the qualifications for the rank of Eagle Scout, a rigorous and demanding process that teaches patience, perseverance, and teamwork, and requires strong goal setting. And whereas James Walden met these challenges with aplomb and shall be recognized as an outstanding representative of his family, his troop, and Falmouth, and whereas the Boy Scouts of America, long acknowledged for building fine citizens, calls for a special court of honor to award its highest symbol of achievement to those who complete this rank, and whereas James Walden is now an Eagle Scout with all its rank and privilege, now therefore we, Douglas C. Brown, Nancy R. Taylor, Samuel H. Patterson, Megan English Braga, Angela Scott Price, as the select board of the town of Falmouth, do hereby declare and proclaim James Walden as an Eagle Scout. In witness thereof, we are hereon to set our hand and cause the great seal of the town of Falmouth to be affixed on this 9th day of May, 2022.
Second.
Congratulations.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Walden. Would you like to come up and tell us a little bit about your project?
Yeah.
Thank you.
First off, I'd just like to say thank you all so much. It's really a great honor. I'll try to keep it brief. My project was at the National Coit Bay Estuarine, I think it's pronounced, I'm terrible at names, Research Reserve. And my project basically involved removing wisteria, which is an invasive species, from the visitor center. My goal of the project was to remove some of that foliage and make it more welcoming to both the workers and the visitors to the center. So we also added a new mulch, did some other weeding and some other cleaning up of the area. So thank you so much once again for all this. It really means a lot.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And we also have another proclamation for another Eagle Scout, and that's Logan Muniz, Troop 38.
I can read this one if you
Okay,
want to.
great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Whereas Logan Muniz of Boy Scout Troop 38 has successfully completed qualifications for the rank of Eagle Scout, a rigorous and demanding process that teaches patience, perseverance, and teamwork, and requires strong goal setting. And whereas Logan met these challenges with aplomb and shall be recognized as an outstanding representative of his family, his troop, and his community. And whereas the Boy Scouts of America, long acknowledged for building fine citizens, calls for a special court of honor to award its highest symbol of achievement to those who complete its rank. And whereas Logan Muniz is now an Eagle Scout with all its rank and privilege. Now, therefore, we, Douglas C. Brown, Nancy R. Taylor, Samuel H. Patterson, Megan English Braga, and Angela Scott Price, as Select Board of the Town of Falmouth, do hereby declare and proclaim Logan Muniz as Eagle Scout. In witness whereof, we have hereto unset our hand and caused the great seal of the Town of Falmouth to be affixed on this 9th day of May, 2022. Congratulations.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Would you like to come up, sir?
Come on up.
and Tell us a little bit about your project, please.
I'd like to echo what James said. Thank you all very much. So for my project, what we did was we went behind East Falmouth Elementary School and we cleared out a whole area back there, mulched the whole, we made a big clearing out there, mulched it all, and we dragged in some stumps to act as stools, and we built up an outdoor classroom for, the kids in East Falmouth, because the whole project was kind of conceived at the height of COVID. So we were thinking, give them an outdoor space, let them get some fresh air. And we also rebuilt the buddy bench for East Falmouth. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yes.
They put that in when I went there, and I remember I went back there and this thing was dangerous. So we rebuilt that and we replaced it.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank
Excellent.
you so much.
Thank you all.
Just amazing.
And we have these proclamations for you up here that we'll give to you. So our next item is recognition. Just want to mention the passing of Ed Van Kuren this week. He was a zoning board of appeals member and an elk. He was a veteran, did a lot in the community. He's a great guy. He's very, very well liked, and we're going to miss him.
Active on FCTV,
Yep.
very active indeed.
Yeah. And any other recognition that we have this evening?
I would like to recognize Megan English Braga,
I think that's a good idea.
who I just really want to thank her for her leadership on this board and for serving the town in the many capacities in which she has. And you will be greatly missed. I think you've taught new board members an awful lot about process, procedure, rules, law, and you have been an incredible mentor to me. So I want to
Well,
thank
thank
you for
you.
that, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
I would just like to second that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Yeah, Megan, you've been an incredible mentor even before I was on the board and a great friend. And I know I'll still see you around because it's not like she's going to stop doing anything else.
Not like I have a life. I'd still be lurking about, so.
But you will be greatly missed. I'm going to miss your leadership and your fierceness and your just
Thank
willing
you.
to do what you thought was right no matter what.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say that, we came on at the same time, but you seem to have a lead on me for some reason.
It was a few months. It was a few months different, so.
So I really appreciate all you've done.
Oh,
It's
thank
been
you so
really
much.
great working with you as well.
Thank you. It's been an enormous honor, and I learned an incredible amount about this town that I thought I knew everything about because I've lived here forever. But the last 6 years was a very steep learning curve, and the best part was just meeting an incredible amount of people and just realizing how many folks it takes to just keep this town as wonderful and unique as it is. And I intend to continue to be involved, so just be in a different iteration. So thank you all. I've really enjoyed it. So
Excellent.
Thank you.
And announcements. We are going to have somebody, is Barb Schneider? Yeah. Barb, did you want to tell us about the progress we're making with the beach staffing and what's going on? Just
Yes, that'd be great.
Could we,
Okay.
are we going to do that?
It's under announcements.
Could we do announcements?
Okay.
Um,
I did have that under announcements.
Oh, it looks to me like it said
Okay.
announcements, and then under reports.
Okay, I'm sorry. Let's just
So-
hang on 1 minute. What
So-
announcements do we have?
Well, I have one.
Okay.
I met with a group of sophomores on their civil action project, which was really neat this morning. It's at Falmouth High School. And the goal of their project is to bring a petition to town meeting that would encourage local businesses to use eco-friendly alternatives instead of plastic, which pollutes our water, our beaches, and contributes to irreversible climate change. And one piece of their argument concerns the impact that pollution has on our beaches and in our town, and how that impacts tourism, thereby hurting the financial end of our community. I really like that they've taken initiative on that. They would like to get on our agenda to present to the
Amazing.
select board what they're thinking about and what their progress is. And I'll be working closely with them, but I'm really excited. I suggested also that they reach out to Mary Bunker, Alan Robinson, and Barbara Schneider
Good idea.
to gather more information for their project. So I was really excited about that.
Great.
I'll piggyback on that, and I just got in the mail today, communication from the Falmouth Water Stewards. I know Doug is active in that group. And it basically talks about the impacts of fertilizer on lawns and provides some guidance on just what you should and should not do. And I think it's appropriate because this new generation coming along are probably going to be the ones that will face the impact the most from what we do today. So I'll just piggyback on that and thank Falmouth Water Stewards for this communication that went out to, I think, every resident in town.
Yeah, this year we targeted not only people on the coastal embayments, but also freshwater ponds, because that's important too.
Yeah, I got one of those this year.
Yeah, okay.
I have a couple announcements. On Monday, May 16th at 6 p.m. in the Gus Canty Center is an overdose prevention hosted by the Falmouth Police Department and the Susie Hopman's office. I'm blanking on.
Human Services.
Thank you, Human
Services
Services. See, I'm going to miss you. There's going to be Narcan training available, also learning how to understand what an overdose looks like. So I encourage people to go out and support. And then on Thursday, May 19th at St. Barnabas, they're having a Falmouth Community Forum on opioid use. From 5:30 to 6:30, there's going to be a free dinner and some refreshments, and then the actual forum is from 6:30 to 8. So that one's on Thursday, May 19th at St. Barnabas on Main Street.
Okay. And we have sort of a tentative announcement
Yeah.
for the Mayflower meeting. Did they respond to that yet?
They did. So we have a tentative date of June 8th, subject to the concurrence of the board. We've heard from several of you. It's been over a week, so I also wanted to make sure nothing has come up in the interim. And if that date is agreeable, the venue, the Lawrence School Auditorium, is available for a public forum.
And did we say 6 p.m. was the?
I wasn't sure. Do you want 6 p.m., 7 p.m.? What's the pleasure of the board?
I think it's going to be a relatively long meeting with a lot of questions, so probably 6 would be better if we could do it. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Okay.
Wonderful.
We'd like to say 6 o'clock on June 8th for the Mayflower public meeting.
Okay.
I don't know if we'd call it a
Public forum,
yeah,
I think
public
we were
forum,
saying?
I think is the term for it, rather than, it's not like a hearing.
Not a hearing.
So much as just a informational session.
That's a Wednesday, I believe, so everybody's
Did they say that in
Right.
school?
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
And then one other announcement, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
I just wanted to announce that we had a lot of discussion since our last meeting with police department, with the chief, with folks at the road race. We were able to get the data from their deferments, and I'm happy to report that the road race, and I see Scott Gelfie is here, that we're going to be able to work with that 10,000 number, and that number will be able to encompass folks from the community being able to register, because there was about a little bit shy of 2,000 folks who didn't choose to go ahead with their deferments. And so that's going to be able to satisfy that number. And what we're going to do is, as we go into, I think what was abundantly clear is that we're going to start those conversations about next year, maybe not the day after the road race, but pretty soon after it. We know the road race is looking to get back to that 12-8 number. They're going to, they've put together a security plan. They really want to talk through it. We know we have to have some bigger discussions. So that's going to take place. But for this year, happy to say that we're going to be able to work with that number. And I think we're going to have a really fabulous race, a lot of excitement. Folks, it's the 50th and there's a lot of energy around it. So I think that we're going to...
Did you want to comment on that, Scott?
So two things I'd like to add. One is that I want to really thank Chief Dunn for meeting with us kind of at the 11th hour. We went in and had a very lengthy conversation. And also with Scott Gelfie and Bobby Antonucci, they were also willing to meet with us, again, at the 11th hour to see if we couldn't work together to have this happen. So I would like to move to approve 10,000 runners for the 2022 Falmouth Road Race.
Do you want to take that out of order off the?
I was going to
Yes.
say,
Because
Because we won't be having discussion about it, correct? I'm hoping
well,
that
we could probably
I just
preemptively.
want to make sure we're not, doing something out of order.
Yeah, because it's not on.
It's not a public hearing. I think
It
we're
isn't.
allowed to take, I think we can take it out of order. The people who it affects are standing in the
here.
doorway, and I don't think either of them are going to object to us taking it out of order.
And I think we did do the work
Yes.
to come to this number, and again, it isn't a hearing, and I think that both sides had their opportunity to speak at the last meeting, and I think they both did a great job, and I'm just hoping that since we have been able to come to this together with both parties, I'd like to move it.
Okay, then I would
second.
entertain that we'll take item number 4 out of business, out of order,
Yeah, let's do
for
that first.
consideration of vote by the board.
You want to, I move that we take it out of order.
I'll second it.
All those in favor of taking item 4 out of order?
Aye.
Okay.
Sam seconded Nancy's motion.
Yes.
Do you want to make any comments before we vote on?
No, we just appreciate everyone's time.
Okay.
For all of this, and, we still have work to do. We're gonna be meeting with the chief, and we really wanna work on a security plan and, button it up for,
We,
when we come back.
Scott, we need you on the
Sorry.
mic, because the people are
Sorry.
listening on the television can't hear.
Yeah, so I think, we've been doing some good work on a security plan, and we want to meet with the chief on that and get his input and see if he's acceptable to a lot of things that we're talking about. And look forward to coming back next year and, running a full field, pre-pandemic field.
Okay, well, we'll see if we can work that out. So, thank you very much then, and I guess we'll go ahead and vote this as it is on the agenda here. Discussion and vote, Falmouth Road Race Incorporated appeal the decision. So apparently we've worked it out to be 10,000 runners this year, with the understanding that we'll try to work on details, and if the chief determines that the plan is good enough to increase the number next year, then we'll hope to work toward that.
So the
Any other
motion.
comments by the board?
Nope, the motion is to approve 10,000 runners for the 2022 Falmouth Road Race, with a second by Mr. Patterson.
All those in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Thank you for your.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank
for
you,
your
guys.
work.
Thanks.
And back now to any other announcements for this evening.
No. Just-
Okay,
Oh, sorry, one quick recognition. I just want to say thanks to Jeremiah Pearson. I sent him an email, but to Jeremiah and his staff, if folks are on Main Street, we lost a lot of trees recently, and they did some plantings for Arbor Day, and it looks, I see Peter here, I mean, it looks beautiful, and it's just such, you can just imagine how it's going to look as those trees grow and mature. So just a really big thank you to Jeremiah, to the staff, DPW and Parks. So thanks to them.
yeah, I heard it was really fun for the kids to
Yes.
watch all that equipment in action,
Yeah,
too.
saw some great photos from some of the schools, so
Yeah.
really great.
Okay, I think that's it for announcements, and so we have item 6, reports, update on beach staffing by Beach Committee Representative Barbara Schneider. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you, congratulations.
Congratulations, well done.
Congratulations, you guys. Thank you very much.
Okay. We got some.
I love the sunglasses going on top of the head. Okay, so I'm here tonight to give you a little update as we have been keeping track of where we stand with recruiting lifeguards and parking attendants. At this time, we currently have 28 or 29 of our returnees who have committed to coming back. Our goal is to have at least 58. 58 is what gives us a full contingent to have 10 beaches guarded, and we hold our breath that nobody gets injured or anything like that. We currently have, as of today, 27 applications. Now, one could say, oh, good, we're going to be fine. Last year at this time, we had 21 at this time. And let me just say that at the end of the day, 9 of those showed up in a lifeguard chair. So I am telling you that we're still feeling that we are probably somewhere between 12 and 15 short. And we will continue to work on encouraging people to apply, to learn about the new program with the bonus programs. And we're hoping that we also will start to be discussing some part-time work for some people. At this point, so many of our lifeguards had reached a stage where they were journeying on into career paths that required internships, things like that in their summer work, but they are still willing to possibly come back for a couple days. So that may end up being how we fill in gaps this year, so to speak. I also find it interesting, I am working with a civic action project on Thursday, going to the high school, and we'll be talking with the kids there. They want to do some help with how to get people to throw out their trash in the right place and not just leave it on the beach. So we'll be trying to let them be creative and come up with some ideas on that. Tomorrow evening, I am hosting a Zoom meeting with a representative from every one of the villages associations, and we are discussing what each village association might be able to do in getting people to help with a weekly trash pickup, as far as just going around and doing for example, the perimeters of the parking lots, or up and down the beach once. And we're hoping we get some scouts, some kids in the area that might be willing to do that for some community service. So that's where we are. I hope that helps. We did pose some questions for our town council to answer, and we'll be looking at those. We're trying to have so much information in front of us, so when we are making recommendations going forward for June when we open, we'll be ready.
Great. Yes.
Can I just inquire if the beach committee got town councils?
Oh, yeah, we did.
No, did not.
Oh, you didn't get this?
It came after the beach committee's last meeting. It has been shared with the superintendent.
Okay. So we did get the answers to the unguarded beach questions, the liability questions, and the town council has this written response. Apparently, communities such as ours in this position would not really be excessively held liable because of the inability to provide a guard at the beach. But still, we don't want to go that way, but.
Right,
I'll
we do not.
let you have a cover of this.
Thanks, yeah, and, we're trying to be very careful about committee versus staff, so I would ask that when a committee writes something, that the committee gets the answer, and that would be my request going forward, and so that we don't always have, all of a sudden, a surprise that we wrote questions and then the staff gets the answer, but we don't.
Right, well, we just got it today,
Yeah,
too.
This is brand new, off the press.
Pardon?
This is just off the
Yeah,
press.
okay, that's fine, I know, I checked my email. Okay, and then, if it's okay, is there any other questions?
No, do you want to just mention the bonus?
Well, absolutely, we were very excited that there's been an establishment of a bonus program, 3 different bonuses throughout the summer, including somebody doing a shift right away before the June 27th, between Memorial Day and June 27th. That's a big deal. And there are 3 $500 bonuses for somebody to earn in addition to their salary. So we're hoping that that draws interest. And I keep wanting to stress, we're having training. If you're not a certified lifeguard, you can get trained right after school is out that first week and be literally in a guard chair before the 4th of July. So we're, again, encouraging parents out there, if your kids are sort of questioning what they're going to be doing, there are good options and there's some money to be made.
Yeah, $1,500 is pretty significant.
Yeah, that's a nice bonus.
In addition to your regular
Yes.
pay, so, yep.
So if I can change hats and do a public announcement, we have one thing to present to the town. If I can
Okay.
call my partner up, Kevin.
That's a good idea.
Want to talk?
Yeah, so the Osprey project would like to present the Falmouth Select Board with a print of one of the Osprey that we actually helped get off of a utility pole. This particular Osprey lived over on Whistler's Way, and we put a platform in a tree for it, and she's been on eggs for weeks now, so.
Nice.
Wow. That's awesome.
We've
That's
had
wonderful.
tremendous success with our project, and we owe a lot of it to the support from you guys, as the board as a whole, and also Doug Brown personally. I'd like to thank you for coming out and helping us.
Sure, it was fun.
Come out and raised a platform with us, and
Yeah.
Yeah,
there were birds in that platform 2 days later, so.
that's great.
That's amazing.
And the DPW was so helpful in when needed, and so we were able to return a little bit of a favor. They needed help with how to troubleshoot an Osprey on a $15 million piece of equipment at water treatment plant, and we luckily had an extra pole and some platform material. That they used Kevin's template, and they very nicely stenciled FWD right on the side. It's for all to see, and we're hopeful that that's going to solve the problem over there.
Good.
Yeah, they've had those birds there for about 3 years now.
All right,
They
that's
fight them
awesome.
every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So now we got to find a place to hang
Yeah,
that.
so Anywhere but the bathroom would be great.
That's awesome. Your photography's amazing.
Thank you very much, guys.
So I know you had mentioned that you folks at the Osprey project thought maybe it would go somewhere in the conservation or marine
Yeah, I
environmental
think
services
somewhere
or,
having to do with animals would be great, and we've
Yeah.
gotten a lot of help from Conservation Commission
yeah.
for this entire project,
Amazing.
so.
That's
So
wonderful.
you
Yeah,
think we can
absolutely.
find a
And
spot for
Maury-
that somewhere?
Maury was out there with us and helping us all along, so thank
Great.
you.
Wonderful. We'll put it back here for now. if you
All
don't
right,
mind.
yep. And there's a box here to keep it safe if you need to for transport.
There's a great space in my living room until the meeting.
I'll go put it in my car for
storage.
now. I'm sure to bring it back.
Well, thanks for your work on that project,
Thank
and
you.
we'll look forward to seeing what happens next year.
Amazing photo.
Okay, great, thank you. With any other announcements, I guess it's time for public comment. Who'd like to go first? Anybody? Yes, sir.
So I take out my sheaf of, no, just single sheet. Hi, my name's Tom Weaver, and first of all, I have a question for the people here. How many of you are familiar with the Falmouth Bike Lab? A few. All right. Falmouth Bike Lab has been in operation in town since 2013. Since that time, we have donated to residents of Falmouth, to the community at large, over 1,000 bicycles that we have rehabbed and fixed up. This is at no charge to the people. All right. We are currently open for bike distribution Thursday nights from 7 to 8:30 at John Wesley Methodist Church. Jones Road, Gifford Road, familiar with that?
Yeah.
The bikes are donated to the bike lab, rehabbed, and then given out free of charge to anyone who needs a bike. This includes school kids. We have taken groups of 30, 35 bicycles at a time to almost every elementary school in town. Summer students in Woods Hole, you're here for the summer, you don't have transportation, come and get a bicycle. You want to get your doctor told you need to do some exercise. We have this nice bike path. Get a bicycle. You're a J1 student here working for the summer, 3 jobs. How do you get around? How about a bicycle? We've supplied bicycles to all these people and many, many more. What I would like to do first of all, well, of these 1,000 bicycles, I personally have fixed probably 2. We have a dedicated staff of volunteers who come in every week, all year, and fix bicycles at no charge, and they are just wonderful. We owe them a very big thank you. The Bike Lab was started by John Wesley Church, and they have been supporting us ever since. This is most generous of them. We can't thank them enough. They've given us space, they've paid our utilities, etc. The church is expanding its youth program, which is a good thing, and we applaud them in this effort, but they need our space, unfortunately. So we need a new home. How much room do we need? This room would be nice. This would give us room to store bikes, parts, and have workspace. I would say about 2-car garage size. We think we're doing a valuable community service by providing these bikes, and we'd like to continue. We need a new working space. Any suggestions that you have as to where we could find one would be greatly appreciated. If you want to talk to me about it, I'd be happy to talk to you, or you can contact the Bike Lab. My name again is Tom Weaver. Thank you very much.
What's your contact information, Tom?
Tom, okay, my contact information, my email, T followed by the number 3, Weaver, it's really tough here, at gmail.com. Yeah, send me emails, and I will answer and be happy to get space.
All right. Well,
Anything
hope
else?
Hope
Anyone
the
else?
free advertising helps you get a space, and if
We
not,
hope so.
come back to us and we'll see if we can think a little more about it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
I have a question for Mr. Suso.
But you know we can't answer.
No. Who in town government is authorized to sign contracts?
The town manager, under the charter.
Exclusively? Nobody else can sign contracts?
Well, we have town council here. If the chair wants to have town council offer further opinion.
Well, typically, public comment is really making statements and comments that.
Questions in our law?
Well, that's been our policy, that we don't really address them at the moment. It's just more of a statement of your position for public comment.
But you certainly could meet at the town manager's office and ask that question. You can get it from the town manager's office.
All right, my name is Diana. We never answer any questions, so I'm just going to tell you what we're going to do. Last week, Sergeant Guthrie stood up here along with Chief Dunn, and they specifically told you guys that they wanted to keep those guns for the guys to use until they learn on the new ones. Then we want to trade it in to powder horn. We all know what powder horn does. We all know what they do. Why are they even coming into this building asking you guys about this? And you have the audacity to sit there and say, can you get me a quote? Come on, what are you guys thinking? What are you thinking? That's one thing. I'm going to finish. When I finish, don't interrupt me. We have the gun issue, the gun issues. You guys never have Chief Dunn or Chief Smith attend meetings. I was going over a bunch of them, and we have the little, you guys go really fast, like we don't understand anything you're saying, and you guys talk all amongst yourselves, okay? You guys hand out residency waivers like candy as we're sitting in this room. You have never addressed us. You have never asked us what our opinion is. That's one thing. I see you looking around, Nancy Taylor. Okay.
Point of order.
We're granting
Mr. Chair,
liquor licenses.
This
We're
is
granting
a
liquor licenses
repeated
like
complaint,
candy.
and I'm going to ask that you control the outbursts of Ms. Mata.
I'll second that.
This is a consistent barrage on the select board, and it's really getting to be too much, and I'm going to ask that you control her outbursts.
We talked about a restaurant with 2 floors the other day, apartments, you know. It was fine. Nobody asked us, were the abutters notified? No. Why should we? Let's visit Pheasant Lane again. I think Gary Sylvester is having a sale this month. You know, he moves houses. So why don't we pick that house up and move it somewhere? Simple. Then we got, let's see, you guys never address taxpayers, like I said. We don't know what the articles are, what they consist of. Itemized lists from attorneys, special counsel, that do work for us. Why are we paying special counsel when we have somebody on the board, correct? So now, let's see, what's the next one? You guys sit here and you talk about, do you have the authority? Do you have the authority to do this? No, you don't. We do, because we feed you. Here we go. Itemized list from the Gary Sylvester. Our playgrounds, our basketball courts, the fields, the schools' parks. The dump fees. To add insult to injury, they're considered house calls. Like, we're lucky that we're still getting our trash picked up. Now, everyone that handles any money has to be licensed, bonded, and insured, or carry a criminal liability. Are any of you guys licensed, bonded, or insured? Okay. Then all of your tax returns. One meeting costs us over $11,000, but we sit here and we heckle Chief Dunn for 21 guns. Executive sessions. No. Why can't we know what's going on? Why aren't you guys asking us? Real estate venture capitalists are the reason
I don't know how long
behind.
your list is, but you're not going to go all night with this.
No, I'm not. It's not long.
Minute, open.
It's not long.
2-minute
Did you
comment
put your
period.
timer on for me?
It's way
Are you
over.
still out there, Chief Dunn? Can I have, all right, let's see. Real estate venture capitalists are the reason behind the housing shortage. 78% of our revenue goes into a Falmouth Housing Fund. We are not allowed to sign each other's nomination papers because we're supposed to be nonpartisan. It's not that long, it's like a few more. We want to know who has permission to use the gas pumps. Listed on the budget, it states that it's a total of 150 grand. It's got to be a lot more than that for our fleet. Jennifer Mullen, what are her credentials?
All right.
Residential waivers are being handed out like candy. We have Zoom meetings.
Point of order,
Yeah.
Chair. I'm going to ask again that we control these outbursts.
I'm not
I'm
outbursting.
asking, and Mr. Patterson has seconded it.
Why are you
This
randomly
is a repeated issue.
Naming people. Thank you.
Thank you. That's appropriate.
Is there any other public comment this evening? Yes, sir.
I'll try to be as quick as I can.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dave Moriarty, lifelong resident of Falmouth, Massachusetts, my hometown. Beware of special town meetings, blue pieces of paper, and slam dunks. That's what I've learned in the last 12 years. On May 4th, Win 2 was finally paid off. A price of $975,000 was accepted by the Massachusetts Water Resource Trust, and now we finally paid the Win 2 off. It's only taken 12 years. It was never a grant. It was a regulatory agreement. It was never, ever, ever a grant. It was a loan, and it continued to be a loan, and that's why we had to pay it off. So our 12-year nightmare is over. 7 years of torturing our own citizens, 7 years of expensive, useless litigation. It's finally over, and I am just so thrilled. I've been waiting 12 years patiently for this night. With that said, I should have had this ready, sorry. I hope the citizens of Falmouth, the Cape and Islands, realize how lucky they are just to live here. I hope the citizens of Massachusetts realize what a treasure the Cape and Islands truly are. The world is losing many beautiful places to industrialization. Here on the Cape and Islands, we have always protected the wildlife and the environment. Our ecosystem and our aquatic environment has sustained us for centuries. Year after year, summer after summer, generation after generation, like clockwork. The sound and the oceans have provided all of the Cape and Islands, have sustained us. So we have always had a long-standing respect and relationship with our environment and all our ocean aquatic creatures and resources. The time to ring the bell and assemble is now, ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Falmouth, citizens of the Cape and Islands. I believe the people have the power. Folks, you have the power to reach out and educate the other citizens of the Cape and Islands. Help send a strong message to the powers that be. Remember, folks, you can't eat a megawatt, okay? But the renewable energy that comes from our ocean in the form of protein from our fish and aquatic resources can never be replaced for no amount of money. No amount of money can ever replace that. You can't replace the parks. You can't replace the ball field. You can't replace the beautiful Worcester Court. They did a fantastic job putting that back together. It's just great. The Cape and Islands are not for sale, period. They are a natural treasure that need to be protected and defended by you and you and you and your children and your grandmothers and your grandfathers. It's time that the people of Falmouth and the people of Massachusetts looked the elected officials of the state, local, and federal in the eye and said, enough is enough. Mayflower Wind, you're not welcome in Falmouth. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just wanted to, for Mr. Doobie, because I know that our chair had made a comment, I think he thought he was joking, but it's not our policy that prevents us from answering, it's open meeting law, it's the state's law. I just wanted to make sure he wasn't being tongue-in-cheek. Because it's not on our agenda, we can't engage in conversation. So it's just that one way, you make the comment, we can then respond at another date, but just not here. I didn't want you to think that there is a reason behind it.
I just randomly setting you off. All right, so any other public comment this evening? Yes.
Hi, Sandy Feynman Silva, Precinct 2. I just wanted to ask the Board of Select persons to put on a future agenda as soon as possible a report on the Task Force on Workforce Sustainability that was authorized at two town meetings ago and is a very important part of the viability struggle that we have in Falmouth to maintain a workforce. And I would like that committee, that task force, to be constituted and up and running as soon as possible. Thanks so much.
Okay. Is that it for public comment this evening? Oh, come on up.
Excuse me, Mark Farmer, East Falmouth. I spoke to Mr. Suso on the phone about 6 weeks ago about the town getting a position for a grant writer. And I look at the budget. I'm a retired school teacher, so the only thing I can speak about is education. We got a lot of physical things, windows, our building was rehabbed. We had technology grants, and we had a grant writer that went and searched for this money. And I think Falmouth would benefit from that. And you told me, sir, it had to be put in the budget, and that would take a year or so to get it in. But I just wanted to mention that maybe in the future, a grant writer would be somebody that the town would benefit from having.
We did take up that discussion last year. Sorry, but just said I wasn't going to do that, but.
Okay,
let it flip.
Because I know, and before I taught public school, I taught at a university, and my last department head was an attorney, and he was a grant writer. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, it rained money. It was crazy. It was wonderful. Right. I just wanted to mention that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll take that up again. Okay, any other comments this evening? If not, we'll move on to our other part of our agenda, which is Town Manager's preliminary report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All appears to be in order for the two entertainment license requests and the special one-day liquor license requests that you'll be looking at this evening. I should note that the request for support for the MVP Action Grant from Wastewater Superintendent Amy Lowell, which is on your agenda, has been withdrawn for further review and reconsideration at a later grant submission date. So you will not need to act on that. The two fee waivers and temporary off-premise sign requests are consistent with past approvals and appear to be complete and appropriate. As a matter of standard procedure, you're asked to approve the appointment of the updated list of officers later this evening for the Falmouth EDIC. We're working with consultant VHB in the town of Bourne and seeking a Mass Trails Program grant to continue the design of the proposed extension of the Falmouth Shining Sea Bikeway north into Bourne. And Public Works Director Peter McConerty is on hand to answer questions when that arises, should the board have any. I'm asking the board to vote to approve Juneteenth, which is June 19th, as a holiday for town employees. This appears in several but not all town collective bargaining agreements, and I feel that the paid holiday should apply to all town employees. Town Council O'Keefe has provided a memo on the matter of apportionment of betterments, which the board has requested. You'll take that up shortly. In under business, the board will be hearing the annual update from our colleagues at the Joint Base Cape Cod. You'll be returning to your discussion of disposition of disposition of items, valued at less than $10,000. Town Council O'Keefe has suggested a couple of amendments to the original draft from March 5th, which I recommend you consider. And Transitional DEI Officer George Spivey has provided a preliminary report with details on some of his many activities. And unfortunately, George is unable to join us this evening, but we can discuss his report if that would be the desire of the board. And that concludes my preliminary report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Suso. And so under business consent agenda, I was curious about the Striper Fest. Is there any new plans to manage the parking of vehicles? I know each year when we have the Striper Fest, I get calls from people trying to park to get to their boats at the marina, and there's been issues. And I wonder if they've had any new proposal this year to better manage the parking.
So we did not have any conflicts in terms of scheduling different events this year. We did raise the parking issue again with the event organizers, and they assured us that they will leave those marina parking spaces open and available, and they did show us some documentation from prior years that indicated that they were available in prior years. I know you have received complaints. I'm not second guessing that whatsoever. So that's, I can't say there's anything concretely different about their proposal this year, but, we've reiterated the concern, and they've assured us that it will, that they will not be occupying spaces that they're not supposed to occupy.
Okay.
I would move approval then.
Okay, that's the only question I had, is to want to make sure that they're aware of that.
We should remove A under administrative orders, under that.
I was just gonna go with, I was just gonna start with the licenses, A, B, and C.
Oh, okay, fine.
And I move approval of all three of those.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. So that's Pickle Jar, Quicks Hole, and Striper Fest, just for folks who are here, because I see people here.
Okay.
And then under administrative orders, I would move
We'll strike A.
B through G,
Yep.
unless there's any other discussion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So if people don't have it, that's the Tai G, Arts Falmouth, Spring at Spore Garden, EDIC, Mass Trails, and Juneteenth.
And then number 3, under bowling alley license.
Okay, can I ask a question about Juneteenth again? Has the school department been brought into this as well? To find out whether they are going to honor Juneteenth?
My understanding is that they
Are.
honored Juneteenth last year
Yes.
and are continuing to do so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so under 3, the seasonal annual license renewals, bowling alley license, Town Hall Partners. Is that still on this evening? There was some, that's the follow-up from the 2 weeks ago.
It's actually not. So there are two different issues with Timbers. One is to renew the 10 lanes, and the other is to add the 2 that were inadvertently left. So there's no notice issued. You will still have on May 23rd the hearing to add the 2 new lanes.
Okay, and then we got the review and the vote to approve minutes of meetings.
So did we vote those two? Under the,
Not yet.
Nope,
Yeah,
so
let's-
I would
let's make
move
sure.
approval for number 3, bowling alley license, and for the lodging house license, Woods Hole Passage.
Second.
And do you want to wait on the minutes, or?
No, that's under, is that under the?
That's on the consent agenda. Do you want to?
Well,
Well, I just figured if people had edits for the minutes, I
Yeah,
was just
and
trying to
that-
break it into
Yeah.
a digestible, so if we just do
and that's
number
fi-
3.
In this case, that's fine with me. I don't feel like I need to hold them.
Okay.
Yeah.
If people don't have edits, then I'll move number 4 as well.
Oh,
Did
want
you
to do the
also-
edits? I thought we'll just pass the edits to
Forward.
what? Peter?
Mm-hmm.
or a few?
Yeah, I have
Let's
very
just do-
minor edits.
Yeah, same here,
Okay.
but I do have a few.
Then I will move number 4 as
Did
well
you
with the
all have a
edits that
chance
we
to
with
review
edits.
the minutes of the March 5th meeting?
Yes.
'Cause
I did.
That was
Yeah.
just recently
That's the one that I have a couple.
forwarded.
So,
Okay, thanks. So everyone's okay with all the minutes then?
yeah,
Yes.
I have edits, but I'll show you.
Okay, so on the consent agenda then, all in favor? Aye. And next we have committee interview for the Agricultural Commission, Jack Simmons. Mr. Simmons here, welcome.
Yes, I'm Jack Simmons, and I'm seeking your approval to appointment to the Agricultural Commission. I'm a grower of vegetables in town, and I support Falmouth agricultural pursuits, and, you know, always sad to see the farmland being lost, but, you know, anyhow, my mission, promote agriculture and work on the commission.
And you know some good people who also know a little bit about farming, I see on the back here, so.
Recommendations, yes.
Yep, great recommendations for references.
Yeah, some of the board members, I believe, yeah. Yeah, I enjoy it, I go to the meetings, and, I was on the commission, but I got a little, annoyed, it's my own fault, of doing Zoom meetings, and I have a hard time hearing, and, even with hearing aids, we couldn't discuss things, and I sort of got frustrated and resigned, to be honest with you all. And Chairman Schwalbe asked me to reconsider this winter when I saw her, and I ended up, the way it worked is I had to come back and get reappointed. I just couldn't be reinstated, so it took a little while to.
Okay.
Well, thanks for coming back. You're not alone. The Zoom was frustrating for a lot of folks, so.
Exactly.
I would move approval. Thank you for coming back on.
That's second.
For position ending June 30th of this year?
Yes.
Those who gotta come
Yeah,
back.
I think
So you have to come back,
I'm
but-
coming back on my old, which I think expires soon, but I'll reappoint after that, too.
Okay.
so.
Great.
Okay,
All
thank
those
you.
in favor of reappointing Mr. Simmons to the Agricultural Commission?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so we all saw the explanation of the Little Pond Betterment Assessment. That's our next item, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, indeed.
So apparently there's really nothing much we can do about it, huh? That was the gist of it. I would like to see that somehow addressed going forward, because this is gonna come up again in other areas that we're gonna be suing. Is there some way that we can, when you mentioned that it was in the statute, is that a statute of Mass General Law, or is that?
Yes.
Okay, so there's nothing really we can do about that.
No.
How could we better prepare for this, for,
Actually, there is.
you wanna come up, Mr. Finneran?
Well,
After she's,
Let's let town council respond.
yeah, I am letting her respond first.
I think there are things that maybe haven't been considered yet. So, practically speaking, when there's a larger project, it would get its own unique betterment. That's really how the equities pan out here. And part of the practical application here, and one of the reasons why you don't reopen a betterment in order to redistribute it, is just to conserve municipal resources. Here, the assessment has to get recorded against every title, which costs $105 for each property. So, and then you have to think about the recording of all of the liens to discharge the betterment also. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars just to redistribute the cost of the betterment. And that's just to add, in this instance, 21 SEUs to what was originally about 1,600. It just doesn't really balance out. And that's why the law is the way that it is. It's not meant to keep tweaking bit by bit every time there are a couple of other houses added to the development.
But it seems like there should be some kind of a mechanism within the law to allow for this, because it seems like it's gonna be likely to happen again.
It will in smaller pieces, but once you add a larger sewer system, once you do a bigger project, then you don't keep adding to the same assessment. You start a new assessment for the discrete projects that get added to the system.
And how does that happen?
So then you'd come back, just like here, for the Little Pond service system, you would have another service system. And that system would have its own assessment, and it would end up all connecting over time. But it's not equitable, and it's not really feasible, given municipal resources, to add 21 houses and then
For its own
redistribute it.
separate, I see what you're saying. Mhm.
If I could just jump into, it may be clear already, but every time you take on a new sewer expansion, that's a new project. So you look at, if the next one is $60 million, we're going to do this exercise all over again. We're going to count up the number of sewer units in that new area, right? And we're going to apportion it based on all of the buildable lots in that new area.
Yeah.
So it's a small, it may be, it may be sort of appear inequitable and aggravating that, there are 21 units and they're paying a little bit less than everybody else. But as town council just elaborated, there's just no easy mechanism to make it absolutely, the same for everyone in that sewer district.
You have to freeze it in time at a certain point and look forward. There isn't a mechanism in the statutes to do a look-back period.
No, but I'm saying when we do our next sewer service area, isn't there any way we can put a provision in for these 40B developments that may take place in an area and put in language that says that should that come to be, then they will still pay the same betterment for each dwelling unit? Because each house, we apportion it according to dwelling units, which is what each of these is going to be, a dwelling unit. So I'd like to see us think if there's some way to put language in there and say that even if it's a lot that's only an acre lot, it could have 6 houses on it instead of 1. So then it'll be paying 6 betterments.
So the way that the statute's written, it's as the time the assessment is voted, that each assessment it attaches to a particular lot. Now, what we have here is those lots were then subdivided, but you can't go back and change the vote that happened when the original assessment was made.
I'm not talking about doing that. I'm talking about in our next sewer planning project, can we add language to apportion affordable housing projects so that should one lot become 6 units, that we can apportion the 6 dwelling unit, each one will pay a betterment.
And I think I did answer that question.
She did.
And the reason why you can't do it is because you're talking about a statute. It's the language in the statute. We can't modify the language in the statute, even for a 40B. A 40B allows for waiver of local ordinances or local permitting processes. It does not call for, nor does it require, a waiver of a state statute. It's immovable.
And how do we, and how do we anticipate that a parcel that's zoned for 7 is going to become a 40B? We don't know.
We don't know. That's why I'm saying.
But the point is, you have to cut your numbers based on what you know are the expenses, and if it changes, and then I think,
Well, I
town
understood.
council O'Keefe has pointed out, it's going to cost us a heck of a lot of money to try to make it a more equitable process that would spread out over all of those SEUs.
I understand that. I understood what she said. What I'm saying is, I was asking if there's some provision that we can put into our next sewer planning, but apparently there isn't.
So, and just one last point. Part of the problem, I think the reason the statute is written the way it is because the statute says not just that everyone has to pay the same amount, it also says you can't charge more in betterments than the project, right? So you have a point in time, here's the total project cost, and then you divide that out by a certain number. So there's your problem. After the fact, okay, the total project cost didn't change, but the divisor, the number of people that you want to assign it to, that number has changed. Now, if it was easy and it was just electronic and moving digits around, maybe you could adjust everybody's, but as town council just pointed out, if we have to adjust everyone's betterment, that becomes a very expensive, time-consuming process. So
Yeah.
that's the conundrum.
Okay. And you want to make a comment?
Well, yeah, I went in, I spoke to Trish, and she explained it to me that it was because at the time of the construction of the sewer, that was 7 lots, and those people paid for 7 lots.
Right.
Could you simply not charge the betterment unless, A, there's a dwelling unit, or B, there's a building permit issued? Then if you'd waited till that point in time, we could have charged everybody the same amount, and we wouldn't have lost out on these 21 betterments.
Yeah, but we didn't know it was coming. At the
Yeah, I
time.
know. So if you didn't, there were no houses built on those lots.
Right.
So there was nothing to really charge. If you just waited until there was a dwelling built or a permit issued and then issued the betterment, then we could have gone out and collected 21 more, couldn't we? Couldn't you just make it that, the policy?
What do you say, delay the sewer project and wait to see if somebody
No.
buys those lots?
No. Those people paid their betterment, and it was just an empty lot. Could you not wait to charge the betterment until there was a dwelling built or a building permit issued? And then we would have captured
No,
those
because
21 instead of the,
No, because it's apportioned to the vacant lots as lots.
now haven't we added people onto the sewer system upon request and charged them the same betterment?
I don't think we've expanded the sewer service area, no.
We have not to date.
No,
Haven't added anyone on there?
no,
No.
Oh, I thought there were.
no, there hasn't.
There've been
We've had a lot of requests, but
Requests.
so far we haven't
But
been able to.
nobody's, so what are you gonna do when that happens? Or, I mean, it would be kind of the same thing, wouldn't it? You're gonna charge them the betterment.
That's why we haven't been able to do it,
Yeah, we denied a request.
because it's already done, it's already.
So we got two
it's already
problems
complete.
here, not one.
Pardon me?
I said we have 2 problems here, not one.
Yeah.
Not being able to deal with the people that want to add on to the system and not charging for the 21 units that we lost.
Right.
Okay, I mean, like I said, I didn't know, and I went to Trish and she explained the whole thing to me.
Right.
Or most of it, anyway.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have.
Need to vote to.
Yep.
Need to vote.
We have
Oh,
to
yeah,
vote to.
okay.
So I would move that we adopt the amended order of betterment assessment for the Little Pond Sewer Service Area, Kendall Land, and this was the public hearing continued from 4/25/22. I guess we have to go through the process of taking any comments from the public and then closing.
Okay, does anybody want to make public comments on this? We can hear you, but we can't do anything to change it.
I move that,
Yes, sir.
Mark, could you introduce yourself? I don't think you did the first time.
Mark, yeah, nobody knows me. Mark Finneran. But what about in a condition where someone has a lot that has the ability to have more dwellings built upon it? Are we gonna let them in for free?
Well, as we were just told, it's, the sewer service area is already planned, and we've already figured out how many lots are in that, and we've apportioned a dwelling unit assignment to each of those buildable lots.
But I mean, is
yes,
it not
so the-
true that there could be a lot there that somebody could build more units on?
What I just asked her, and she explained that it's in the state law statute that once you've planned your sewer service area, the planning is complete, you can't go back and change it.
So if someone has a lot that has the ability to have more dwellings built on it,
That's the
and
exact
if it was
question we just
anywhere
talked
else
about.
in town, they could build them, but you're not going to allow them because you don't have a way to charge them for the sewer? What kind of sense does that
no,
make?
they'll
No,
get charged
that-
for sewer.
They only pay the small amount. Say if they had a unit property and they put 4, they're gonna divide that betterment into 4 small pieces.
That's what we're
That's
doing here.
that's what's happening right
The
here.
betterment is for the connection to the sewer system. They then have to pay whatever their sewer bill is.
Okay, but I mean, you're still, it'd be the same thing.
It's
So
exactly
that's
the
a
same thing.
benefit to somebody out there.
That's right.
Keep that in mind.
Yep. Okay, so.
So I
we
would
have-
move that we close the hearing?
Okay. All those in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
And I guess we'll have to take a motion on moving this forward because
Aye.
there's no options to change it.
I would so move.
And so this is an amendment to the the betterment.
Correct.
system, Correct?
Yes, it is.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and next we have business Joint Base Cape Cod Commanders briefs on Joint Base Cape Cod initiatives, projects, and issues.
Put it in and. We have a top secret password written right here. And you want the presentation, you said, right?
Yes.
And you can use that or the mouse.
Really? Technology for me? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to say thank you very much for allowing us to speak to you this evening. It's once a year we like to try to get out, and at least at minimum once a year, and speak with the boards within the town, and this is a great opportunity. I hope my intent tonight is to provide a very short briefing and then introduce you to the commanders, and then basically provide an avenue for follow-on conversation. If there's anything else you want to discuss, if it's something short, we're more than happy to deal with it here, but I know you have a long agenda and you have a lot of things to deal with, so I'm assuming Arrow?
You're saying all the words we like: short, brief, ongoing conversation.
I am so glad.
You've done this before.
We're working this well together at the very beginning. My name is Brigadier General retired Christopher Foe. I'm federally retired. I was brought back by the. Well, thank you. I was brought back by the Commonwealth as an assistant adjutant general to be the executive director of Joint Base Cape Cod. I will introduce individuals as they do their briefing, but just for now, the Camp Edwards commander is Colonel Matt Porter. Over there. Colonel Timothy Gordon is representing Colonel Sean Riley for the 102nd Intelligence Wing. Lieutenant Colonel Tim Skip Sheehan is the commander of the 6th Space Warning Squadron of the United States Space Force. And Coast Guard, the Coast Guard is represented by Base Cape Cod, Captain Sean Hannigan. And Air Station Cape Cod, Captain Potter is not here.
Yeah, Commander McCown.
Commander, okay, thank you very much. So anyway, real quick. So
Welcome,
again,
thank you.
Thank you very much for allowing us to speak here. Like I said, my introduction is quick. Joint Base Cape Cod, 22,000 acres, 10% of the land mass of Cape Cod. We are a huge player on Cape Cod for almost anything we deal with. Just to kind of give you an idea of how big we are, that's every other military installation in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and I'm guessing we got room for about 3 27-hole golf courses after that if necessary. This is me. This is what basically the Adjutant General appointed me to do. I'm supposed to be a representative, a liaison with the community, representing both the needs of Joint Base Cape Cod, but hoping that we can branch out the community, come up with, identify, for me, my big word is synergies. Things that help us, that help you, and I get a couple examples I'll go over, but to me, the biggest thing on there is my transparent relationship. And I'm very strong, I feel very strongly about maintaining a transparent relationship. I might not always tell you what you want to hear, but I'm not going to tell you something that isn't the truth.
Okay.
I did want to identify, so we've been doing, since 2013, economic impact analysis. You'll see, so just to let you know, the differences in those colors, the first time they did it, it's a company that does it for us. It's a proprietary formula. So they come out, they collect the information. The first time they only included the agencies that are in the reddish-orange color. So when they came out, you'll see it was $330 million roughly. Literally, a couple of years later, we added the entirety of Joint Base Cape Cod, and it was $550 million. Right now, we're in the middle of one right now, and it looks right now like our impact is going to be around the $600 million, right in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So just to let you know, so my interaction with the community, so we have all kinds of things out there going on, but my job is basically, you'll see it right here. The MC Cubed, which is the Military Civilian Community Council, that is not the EMC and the SAC and the CAC and all that stuff. This is basically things that go on in what we call the cantonment area. So just quickly, the training areas, the northern 15,000, the lower 7,000, where most of the people work and most of the buildings are, that's the cantonment area. That's my primary responsibility. We meet with the MC Cubed quarterly, and then the Joint Oversight Group started out as a commander. So just to let you know, Joint Base Cape Cod is a joint base by gubernatorial declaration.
Most of them federally declared, so there's federal joint money, there's a federal commander. That is not the case here. So we basically command by committee. And it's truly an honor to be part of that because it actually goes very well. So it started out as a commanders-only meeting, just so we could all get together and discuss things. And then we quickly realized it was a good opportunity for us to sit with the community. So the invitations basically went from about 6 to about 100 people. Now, I'm not saying everybody shows up to every meeting, but it's an opportunity for people to discuss everything from what we're doing, what's happening in the towns, where people need support. I mean, we have everything from our nonprofits that are out there trying to help us, get educational benefits for the children on the base. We're dealing with the Otis Valley Advisory Council. You name it, they attend this JOG meeting. And it's actually a really good opportunity for, and I know Mr. Suso's on the, we haven't had a actually face-to-face meeting in a while, but the next one I plan on doing it. But, it's a great opportunity from a representative for the town to get up-to-date information on what's going on. Interagency cooperation, I deal frequently, right now, one of our biggest partners is the police on Cape Cod. Basically, the municipal training committee. We've been trying to work with the towns. I know there's a big gap when it comes to police academies and police training and law enforcement training, and we're trying to help the communities bridge that gap. So we've been working very closely with the police chiefs, and basically, I think we've saved the community quite a bit of money by having an academy so close. So there's not a lot of per diem costs for the towns. So for us, it's a win-win. Because we see law enforcement as one of the greater synergies with some of the things we do in the military. And our future training, I think you'll see us training together a lot more. Future vision for Joint Base Cape Cod is pretty simple. We want to make sure that we maintain strong mission readiness while working with the community. In a nutshell. That's how we perceive our future on Joint Base Cape Cod, because we have to have both. We can't focus on one or the other, and it's a great balance. And I think that is my last slide. And I want to thank you very much for listening to me. Anybody have any questions before I sit down?
No, sounds good to me.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Great.
Record time.
All right.
Gold star.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman,
Good evening.
board members. As the General said, I'm Colonel Tim Gordon, the Vice Wing Commander at the 102nd Intel Wing, and I know this is a busy slide, but I only have 2 of them. So I'm going to provide just a brief overview of our wing and then cover some of our recent initiatives and then finish off talking a little bit about our people. So the 102nd Intel Wing is part of the Massachusetts Air National Guard. Our primary mission is to provide precision intelligence to Air Force operations across the globe. The wing is comprised of about 1,200 members, of which about 400 are full-time. And these 1,200 members are spread across the 5 groups that you see here, and I'm going to touch upon each one of them. So starting from the left side, the 102 ISRG. This ISR stands for Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance. This is a network-centric mission, and it's part of a broader Air Force global network system. And I think the key takeaway to the 102 ISRG is that it is one of 27 intelligence production sites in the United States Air Force. And the mission itself, and it says it on the slide, is centered on the concept of reach back, which essentially means that commanders on the ground across the globe can reach back and obtain critical intelligence relative to their area of operation in real time. That's what we're able to provide. So that's 102 ISRG. Next over to the right is the 202 ISRG. This group operates in the cyberspace environment, providing cyber intelligence to Air Force operations and other joint operations worldwide. And these folks collect intelligence on our adversaries' cyber footprint, their vulnerabilities, their capabilities, and then they provide actionable intelligence from that to other organizations that may be conducting offensive or defensive cyber ops. So I think we're all familiar with the reality and the potential impact of cyber attacks, and fortunately our military maintains strong cybersecurity capabilities, and the 102nd is extremely proud to be a part of that. Next over, I'm going to go to the far right, the 253rd CEIG, stands for Cyber Engineering and Installation. This group is responsible for engineering and installation of communication lines, radar, and navigation systems at U.S. Air Force and Air National Guard installations. And the type of work that they do, it ranges from small jobs, sort of, like installing security cameras on buildings, to some complex fiber optic computer network installations throughout an entire Air Force base. And just a couple of years ago, this group actually participated in a cyber infrastructure project on White House property. So they're doing, like everybody else, they're doing some real important stuff. So I kind of view the CEIG as the Air Force version of AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, Infinity, all rolled into one. That's essentially what they do. Next, in the middle, we have our medical group. Our medical group consists of two missions. One is to ensure that wing members are fit to fight, that we get our physicals, that we get our vaccinations, that we get our dental exams. And the other mission that they have has to do with a Homeland Response Support mission. And basically they support domestic emergencies that require medical attention. So I'll touch upon it a little later, but in 2020, 2021, at the height of the pandemic, we had 98% of our medical group personnel were activated in some capacity, mostly here in the Commonwealth, but also out of state. And and then finally, last but not least, is the Mission Support Group. These are the folks that keep the base open for business. They're responsible for roads, utilities, base communications, and perhaps most importantly, base security. So let's see, next slide. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to touch on some of our resources and our people. As many of you may be aware, over the past 10 years, we've been transforming our base from a fighter industrial type base to a much smaller intelligence, we kind of call it a campus, right? A campus-like base. So we're working toward less buildings and less land. And we've made a lot of progress in this area in the past 10 years, specifically over the past 4 years. Since 2018, we invested over $30 million in our infrastructure. That includes new construction, renovations, demolition of buildings that are no longer needed. And we have more in the planning phase. Next down is land divestment. So like I said, we're trying to get smaller. The Air National Guard currently has land holdings of about 3,600 acres on Joint Base Cape Cod. We probably need, at this point, somewhere in the less than 600, 650, I know it says on the slide, but it might even be less than that at the end when we get to where we need to be. So we've been working with the National Guard Bureau down in DC to kind of work through this process of divestment. And then as it relates to utilities, again, as you are aware, our water and wastewater infrastructure has been something we've been trying to divest for the better part of a decade, if not longer than that. Most recently, an exchange agreement with Converge ASUS has been in the works for over 2 years. This is currently in the final stages, and we expect an agreement extremely soon, dare I say by the end of the month, right? I mean, we're that close to it. So that's going to be a tremendous accomplishment. Currently, it is with the Secretary of the Air Force General Counsel, and they're just kind of going through their due diligence on this. So hopefully there's good news there certainly for the base, and I know perhaps even for the Upper Cape cities and towns. So that's utilities. We also, after we take care of water, wastewater, we actually own our own electric grid for the base, so we also want to divest that as well and try to, it's really not one of our core competencies. It's working, we're doing it, but it's really not a mission set that it's not our business, right? Even though it has been in the past, but that's been changing. And finally, I want to shift to the right side of this slide and talk a little bit about our people. We're really proud of all our members and the work that they do. As I said, we have 1,200 total members, of which almost 230 of them are Cape residents, and then another 176 are residents of the surrounding towns. And in Falmouth, you have 30 residents, including myself, who resides here in Falmouth. So we're in the area, and as an example of sort of the good work that we've been doing, I'm just going to highlight our domestic operations support to the Commonwealth over the past 2 years, or 2020, 2021, during COVID. So we measure things in number of days. So when it comes to COVID support, we provided 12,000 days of support, mostly to the Commonwealth. In terms of security, crowd control that we provided to the Boston Police Department and other Commonwealth cities, 1,300 days. And then about 1,700 days for down in Washington, D.C. for the inaugural support and post-inaugural support that was needed. So our airmen are committed to the country and to the Commonwealth, and I appreciate the opportunity to come before you and highlight some of what they do. And pending your questions, that completes my briefing.
That sounds pretty complete. Any questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that.
Appreciate it.
Skip.
All right, good evening. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Skip Sheehan. I'm the commander of the 6th Space Warning at Cape Cod Space Force Station. One of our more significant changes within the last year, where we changed from Cape Cod Air Force Station to Cape Cod Space Force Station. So that happened last June, and it was a pretty awesome day. I don't know if anyone here was able to make it, but it was lots of fun. What really hasn't changed is our mission since 1980 when the radar went live. We're doing missile warning. That's our primary mission, looking out over the East Coast, protecting, keeping an eye out for anything that could potentially be coming in as a threat. And when things aren't being launched at us, we're tracking space objects out to 5,000 kilometers out into space. So what's super important about that is the Space Domain Awareness Mission is the #1 mission for U.S. Space Command. Tracking objects in space, knowing where they are, what's happening. You look at the news in the last year when Russia destroyed one of their own satellites in space, creating 1,500 pieces of debris and possibly more. Well, that's in low Earth orbit, moving at 17,000 miles per hour. And when you've got the International Space Station with astronauts on board, also moving at 17,000 miles per hour, if you do a little bit of physics, the amount of force that's generated by that collision can be massive. So to know where everything is in space, to how to keep our assets safe is incredibly important. And that's what we're doing here out on Cape Cod. Our team is relatively small. We're comprised of both airmen and guardians. So I've got U.S. Air Force members, mainly my security forces personnel that protect the installation, and then my guardians who are Space Force members that actually operate the radar, as well as other people. We're about 130. And here's some pictures of the team getting out there and doing things. One of the exciting things that we're looking at now is as we are standing up the U.S. Space Force as a separate service, there's a lot that's changing. And one thing that my team is involved with is the holistic health assessment program that the Space Force is pursuing. As part of the Air Force, we did our fitness assessments once, maybe twice a year. You go run, you do sit-ups, you do push-ups, and if you pass, you're good. Well, we're looking at it and saying, how can we take care of people as human beings, get after the guardian ideal that we're striving for? So we are looking for almost a year-round assessment of how they're doing. We've got some rings that we bought for our people so we can track their heart rates, see how well they're sleeping. And when you've got a 24/7 mission where people are sleeping all kinds of different hours, when you have defenders that need to be there 24/7 guarding and protecting the installation, how are they sleeping when they work a 12-hour shift from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., and then when they change and go back to a different time? So we're looking at trying to make us all better and take care of the people, and what we're doing is going to impact the Space Force overall, and that's happening right out here on the Cape. So it's pretty awesome. It's a great team. I'm a native New Englander, born in Massachusetts, grew up in New Hampshire, and this is my second assignment out on at 6 Swiss. So to be able to come back, it's amazing. Unfortunately, my change of command is next month, so I will be leaving the Cape once again, but we'll always come back and visit. So, pending any questions, that's all I have from 6 Swiss.
Where are you going?
The Pentagon. Be working for Space Force headquarters.
Well, that's a pretty exciting change.
It's pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
That sounds like an upgrade. So any other questions?
That's what the Metro's for.
Yeah, exactly. No, thank you.
There must be plenty of junk out in space that you have to worry about, huh?
There's lots. So much that one of the upgrades we're going through recently is to change the way that we categorize objects in space. When the radar was built, we went with a 5-digit number, thinking it's going to be a while, we probably don't need to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now as the number of objects in space is increasing dramatically, soon we won't be to a point where we have more cataloged objects than our system is able to process.
We're gonna have to start trying to clean that up, I guess, huh, eventually.
A form
Wow.
of Y2K, huh?
A little bit, yes.
All right, well, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Board, Commander Dave McCown, I'm the Executive Officer at Air Station Cape Cod, and then Captain Sean Hannigan, who's the Commanding Officer at Base Cape Cod for the Coast Guard. So I kind of have the easy job here. I get the kind of good news story for everything. So Air Station Cape Cod, we're a fairly small air station in terms of Coast Guard wide. We have a pretty large regional impact. 176 active duty civilian members that we operate 3 M860T helicopters and 3 HC-144 fixed wing aircraft. And we are responsible from everything from New Jersey to the Canadian border. So all the rescues, all the maritime patrol, all the fishery enforcement, that all falls on us to do with just those 6 aircraft and 170 people. We also, on top of that, do search and rescue and fisheries law enforcement and transnational law enforcement across the Great Lakes. And in times of hurricanes, we send helicopter crews down to respond to hurricanes, and we also support drug operations down in the Caribbean. On top of all that, we operate the Coast Guard's largest all-volunteer air force. It's about 40 total aircraft and 200 members that all come from the local communities that own aircraft and help us kind of complete all these missions. So kind of some major things that have happened for us recently. Last March, we had a rescue called the fishing vessel Atlantic Destiny. Large catcher processor about 200 miles east of Chatham, sank with 31 people on board. The Canadians got on scene first and were unable to pull them off. The 2 Coast Guard crews arrived second, pulled all 31 mariners off, and about 30 minutes after we got the last person off, the boat sank. So 2 air crews from us, 4 air crews from Canada to do that rescue. On top of that, we went Hurricane Ida, saved 8 lives down there, responded to the Haitian earthquakes, and then did all of the pre-storm warnings, post-storm assessments, flights in during Hurricane Henri when it hit here back in August of 21. So what that means is we're protecting all the navigation aids, marking it all before the storm, so that way we can get the ferries back running, we can get all the maritime transportation system back up as fast as we can after those storms. Top of that, we do a lot of counter-drug migrant interdiction. Over the last year, we've stopped $18 million of narcotics, intercepted 24 migrants, and most importantly, kind of here locally, did some work with the DEA and our Coast Guard Investigative Service for an operation on Nantucket where we were expecting to intercept about 100 total pills. We ended up getting 874 fentanyl pills, 690 methamphetamine pills, a couple hundred other illegal pills of various types, and $31,000 of cash. So we are, trying to take drugs off the local area as well. And then most importantly, kind of for the local economy, $14 billion fishing industry out here in New England, and we are responsible for making sure that that is enforced and make sure that all the people who are fishing where they're supposed to, so that way we can keep the living marine resources viable moving into the future. All that, this is kind of my brag slide, but really all it is what I want to highlight on this is we've won a lot of awards. And a lot of these are big international awards or national level awards, but it's not that we won the awards. These are the people who are living in your communities. These are the people who love living here in Cape Cod. These are the people that we know are coming home to their families, who are buying homes here, who are trying to set up their lives here. And more importantly, these are the people's names and the awards they're winning because they're the people who are returning, your friends and family and your community members back after they have unfortunate incidents at sea. So that's just kind of a list of the things we've won kind of over the last couple of years.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And standing by for any questions for myself.
I kind of have a question. So how are you affiliated with the Coast Guard base that's in Woods Hole?
So we as the air station, we operate the aviation assets. Woods Hole is responsible for all the afloat assets and then all the prevention, so all the pollution response assets.
Okay, thank you.
Great. I have one more question. Do you anticipate having to increase staff levels to accommodate all these wind farms that are going to be built out in the ocean?
So not at this time. We do, the Coast Guard has played a large role in kind of what happens with the wind farm, make sure we can respond to them. But in terms of increasing staff level, we don't expect to increase staff level. We should be able to keep all the response that we need to with what we have.
Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Good evening. My name is Sean Hannigan, and I'm representing Coast Guard Base Cape Cod. I've been there for a couple of years. I'm originally from Massachusetts, so I'm glad to have the assignment here at the Cape. And first and foremost, we provide mission support, and we have tenant commands that are listed there. So we saw the air station brief, tough act to follow. They have a lot of awesome rescues, so it's very proud to provide mission support to them. Maritime Safety and Security Team, Port Security Unit 301, the New England Regional Fisheries Training Center, Force Com Armory and Range, and the Marine Safety Detachment, Cape Cod, which is affiliated with Sector Southeast New England. And we, as I list here, too, the Sector Southeast New England and the 8 stations, 4 patrol boats, and others. So our service lines include comptroller base operations, facilities engineering, procurement and contracting, health, safety, work-life, electronic support, personnel services including housing for on-base and off-base, morale, wellness, and recreation, the servicing personnel office and admin for pay. And those are the service lines for base Cape Cod. Any questions or concerns?
When you say personnel services for housing on base and off, do you support people who are trying to buy a home or live off base financially, or?
We provide regional information from the local housing office for off-base, but we also have an inventory on base of 155 family homes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Colonel Matthew Porter. I'm the commander of Camp Edwards. It's always tough to follow the Coast Guard because they're always saving lives and it always looks good and they always put me last, but I do my best, all right? Camp Edwards, primarily, it's a training site, so a little bit different mission than the other units that briefed. We look a lot like a town, and I act a lot like a town manager for the base. I'm the commander, but also during the week I'm the full-time employee that manages the base as well. So we have director of public works, we have we have security, we have an environmental resource director, director of plans and training, and then we have several entities that are training units that actually reside on the base as well. Don't fall under Camp Edwards specifically, but they are tenants of the base. So we have Aviation Battalion, which fly our Blackhawks that you see flying over. We have EOD, so our explosive unit, so they get rid of explosives, engineering, cyber, which is new to the base over the past couple of years, but I've been pretty busy. We have a regional training institute. That's basically where we do most of our training for our soldiers and different MOSs and whatnot. Also part of the base, Barnstable Dispatch resides in the fire station, and we also have the Army side of the water cleanup program as well. So that all falls on the base, not necessarily under Camp Edwards, but as a whole, that's the Army piece of it. Oh, went the wrong way. There we go. As far as soldier training, in 2021, we were pretty busy. Regardless of COVID, we stayed really busy. So you can look at how many man days, and really that's just how many soldiers each day participated in each one of those different training areas. So, like I said, every year we've ticked up training over the past 5 years, regardless of COVID. And it's been, like I said, a primary training venue for the Mass National Guard. Some of the different training venues that we have on base, I know you've heard a lot about the range complex and the MPMG, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. So that's one of the ranges that we use. But we also have a lot of simulators that we do quite a bit of training on in order to get our soldiers ready for those ranges. And also we use a large amount of land. Unlike the Air Force, and they're talking about getting smaller, we really need that land as far as the Army is concerned. We have about 17,000 acres, 15,000 acres of that we use for maneuver or the range complex, and that's really important for the type of mission that the Army has. From our natural resource department, so we've been pretty busy. Many of you have been on the tours. I know we talk a lot about our natural resource, our training, and our water cleanup, and how we kind of merge those together and really implemented a culture of training with a culture of conservation. And really that keystone piece of it, one of the keystone pieces really is natural resource management, headed up by Jake McCumber. We have 41 listed species that reside on the base. We have a very robust ecosystem, rivaled only by the national seashore on Cape Cod. So it's really a remarkable area to go see. Yes, we do a lot of training, but the soldiers that train out there need the same type of environment that the animals that live there as well. So it really does work very well together, but it's something that you have to see to really fully understand. And it's been a pretty good program that we've really leveraged, and especially we want to show off and tell that story a lot more. So we've been doing a lot of grassland tours, bird tours, and you can see some of those dates will be coming available, as well as community engagements with our tours on base, and that really does, like I said, promote this natural resource department. With that, in order to manage that land, the Natural Resource Department has to implement a lot of wildland fire mitigation. So we do prescribed burning. We have this year 22 burn days, which is actually a remarkable amount of days to burn. In a total, we're aiming for about 600 acres. Last year, I think we did roughly 115 acres. We were aiming for 600 last year, but COVID, different environmental factors really play into it. So we always aim high for 22 days. We always aim for 600. If we can get 600, that'd be great. In order to really reduce that fuel load within the impact area as well as the surrounding areas, and to keep that as a pine barren, which is a disturbance-dependent ecosystem, we have to introduce fire and put fire on the ground there. That's what's always been in place. That's what the wildlife rely on, and that's why we do it. Some initiatives. I know this has come up in a lot of the public meetings. What do we plan on doing in the future? So these are some of the projects that we're planning on, or some of the ones that we've already done. So I'm going to start off with range modernization, which is a big piece for us. So firing our weapons and be able to qualify in our weapons, having trust in our weapon systems and be able to use them, that is one of the most critical pieces for a soldier. So current projects right now, we decommissioned 2 25-meter ranges. So we took two ranges offline. Those ranges were STAP ranges. They had lead capture devices on them in order to capture lead bullets that we were firing, but we no longer shoot lead out of our rifles. We're shooting copper, so they were not needed any longer. So we took those ranges out of the inventory. And then we restored one of our 25-meter ranges, and so we made it a little bit wider, and that's the top picture you see on the right-hand side. That's our Tango range, and it sits beside our Sierra range, which is our qualification range. So we just made it a little bit wider, moved the berm back a little bit in order to take it out of the surface danger zone of the Sierra range, which is like I said, our rifle range. And then, like I said, just made it a little bit wider, added a few lanes to it. So now it's a very fully functioning range that will be part of the agenda item for the next EMC meetings that are coming up. So that'll be on the agenda. So the range is complete, and now we have to get the EMC approval in order to use it. Multi-purpose machine gun range. As far as the update is concerned, we really haven't progressed any further from last time we met. So from the Army side, we have gone through the NEPA and the MEPA process, so the environmental pieces. We are in the EMC process. We did the Science Advisory Council meeting, received a vote that it is in line with Chapter 47, and now we're waiting for the Community Advisory Council meeting to happen, and then the final EMC vote. What they are waiting on, and I'm not trying to put words, but I think that they're waiting for the sole source aquifer review to be complete by the EPA in order just to have more transparency, to really understand exactly if there's any issue that's going on, which I'm confident there is not, but we're still going to wait for that, and that probably won't be until sometime in maybe the winter time frame. So I think that's about where we're sitting as far as the multipurpose machine gun range is concerned. Future projects. Unlike the multi-purpose machine gun range, which was taking a range and then putting onto a footprint of a different type of range, which would require a lot more clearing, it was really changing the footprint of what was there. Future projects really are just modernizing what we already have. So the infantry squad battle course is one range. It's already a footprint there. It's a caretaker status. It has not gone through the EMC process. We're going to modernize it and then ask the EMC for us to be able to use that. That's a critical piece for us for maneuver live fire, and that would be an important piece for us to have. So that is in design. Once we get a design, it'll be at a point where we can put it in front of the EMC and put it, if it has to go through any environmental process as far as NEPA or MEPA, that'll be the time when it would go through. And then the ARF extension is really just adding 6 lanes to the 10-lane ARF that we have. So it's slightly larger footprint. I think they said it was about a 4-acre. It'd be about 4 acres of clearing on the side of the range in order to make that a full ARF range, and that would give us a standard ARF range and a standard 0 range right beside it. So that's about it, and that's it that we're looking for as far as the range complex now and in the future. Cantonment modernization, we're building a new armory in 2025. That'll be down pretty close to where the fire station and the aviation is located. Physical fitness training track, we have a new physical fitness standard that we implemented, and there is a need for a track and a field. We have a location for it, we have a design for it, we don't have any money for it, so we're just waiting for funding. Phase 2 for the UTES, the unit training equipment site. UTES has been built, soldiers are finally actually moving into that facility. The second piece is to tear down the old UTES and then build a cold storage unit next to it. So that's the phase 2, and that should probably be mobilizing for that in the next 3 to 4 months, I would say, probably by fall. And then we'll continue to demolish old World War II structures that we've been using as a bridge in order for us to get more modern structures. So as we get funding for modern structures, we will take down some of the old stuff that really doesn't meet our needs. Okay, I pretty much already talked about the MPMG, but you can read through here. There really isn't much of a change except for Environmental Management Commission. Like I said, we do have a EMC meeting on the agenda, or coming up on the 19th of May and then the 24th of May for the Community Advisory Council. But those are from an Army standpoint, is just to talk about Tango Range. The MPMG is not on that agenda. Outside of that, I think I've touched on most of this. I will say, just for more detailed information on anything Army, range-specific, project-specific, Chapter 47, the website here, the link here is a great location to go to. Also has great information on State of the Reservation Report, which is a mandated document that we have to produce every year to talk about training that we have done over the past year, any violations that we have of EMC or any issues that come, anything that regarding the Army and its training on the base is in that. And it's, like I said, a mandated document, so it's a great document, and that is on that website as well. So to talk about our community outreach, so we really have invigorated a community outreach program over the past year. It really started here. We talked about it in I think the last time I spoke at this meeting. And we have had many tours. So we've done, we're doing them about every week during the summer. Last year, we're doing it every month, but we increased capacity for this year. But we're also hosting, if groups have, like a large group and they want to do a tour, we're welcoming them as well. So this week we have 2 tours, one on Tuesday and one on, Wednesday and Friday. But they are starting to fill up, so if you're interested, please sign up. Kathleen Kolva, number is there. You can contact her and she can help you. We've also gone out into the community, and whether it's Rotaries, whether it's Kiana's, or whatever location we have to. We've done probably about 10 presentations at different venues out in the community, and we continue to do that throughout the summer and especially in the fall and winter, because that really, when we are having the tours, we can put more time into going out to the community and going to those different special groups and talking about whether it's Chapter 47 or some of those community concerns that they want us to address. So whatever it is that you want us to talk about, we're more than happy to. And then the grassland bird tours, that's another great opportunity to really see our natural resource department, and those are the dates right there. Other than that, it's up to your questions.
Very good. I'm signed up for one of your tours.
Great.
Which one are you going on?
Sometime in June, I guess.
Okay.
I got my great aunt and my mother signed up for the bird tour, so it's gonna be great. It really is. It's remarkable. So
Can we get a link to that material so it's easy for folks if they've seen it tonight, if they didn't write that down, so that they can quickly link to those events and to that, especially that last slide.
And Kat,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Kathleen Colva has been phenomenal. I know some of you have spoken to her, and she's been relentless at getting out and speaking to the community. So it really has empowered that program to really,
great.
hit the ground running. So,
Yeah, she's wonderful.
yeah,
Good
it is.
hire.
Yeah, I know. Great. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Say thank you again.
Thank
for
you.
having us out here. And I would be remiss if I didn't comment on the fact that, I'm a Falmouth resident, but the services that Falmouth is providing veterans right now is remarkable. And I want to thank you for that. Don and Julie, they're top notch. I'm not going to lie to you, I've sent veterans from other towns to them to get things clarified. They just really help us a lot. And that's been the general theme when we come to Falmouth, is that people want to help.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it. I'm a Falmouth resident, but also as a member of JBCC, it's heartwarming to know that we have such good friends in the community.
And you see, we got the volunteer groups building up the Veteran Center. The old senior center is going to be a Veteran Center now.
Amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that's in addition to what Don does here at the Town Hall.
Again, it's nice to have friends in the community like you, and I really appreciate it. Feel free if you have any other questions. Our conduit's Mr. Rendon. I think most of you have his email.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I know several of you have my business card, and feel free to contact me directly.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think you had potentially a question on Mayflower Wind.
I was curious if there is, we've got a proposal for Mayflower Wind to bring a lot of infrastructure into Falmouth, and it's some really big stuff, and the substation would be really huge, and we have a lot of concerns from residents about the potential noise and maybe electromagnetic fields emanating from this. And I was curious if there's any place on the base where you might have a remote area that we might be able to.
I don't think I could go into the depth we need to in this meeting.
No,
I'm
of
more
course
than
not.
happy to schedule a meeting to discuss that with you.
Yeah.
We're very open to discussions on anything we can do.
Just wanted to throw that out there while you're here.
Appreciate it.
Great, thank you so
Well, I want to
much.
thank you all also for your service to us in the
Thank you,
community.
ma'am.
and
I
the
really
country.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
Again, you're just reiterating what I said about the people of Falmouth.
Right.
It's very heartwarming to live here.
Well, we appreciate you having you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Take care.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, next we have discussion on select board policy for disposition of items valued at less than $10,000. And we have a draft policy in our packet that's been adjusted since our last time we looked at it.
Yeah.
Has everybody had a chance to give that some thought? I will say that since our last meeting, I did take up Mr. Doobie's offer to speak with the gentleman at the Inspector General's office, and he did say that, interestingly, that given the nature of weapons, and it's such a unique item, that he wasn't really of the opinion that we would have to limit our purview to $10,000 or less. He said it's very unique, and each case could be taken under its own merit. So I just thought I'd share that information with the board.
Thank you.
I know we're still waiting for that sort of weigh-in from the Inspector General, kind of the broader,
On the whole process.
on the whole process, yeah.
Right. So that's for another day, but I just
But I
wanted to
like-
throw that out there.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that this policy is broad enough that it, I mean, this language is all may, none of it's shall, it's not required, it just outlines kind of a general policy, a general sort of process. And so I guess, I like the way, I like what the policy says. I think the bigger issue will be how the policy is implemented, right? So the important piece will be, how does this play out? So when there is some material that's surplus, is this something that, when does the board, at any point in time, when, if they do become involved, where is that? Or most of these are things that the town manager does, because that's appropriate. But when is there some piece in time that the select board would become involved, because I think that's where this conversation started, right? And so I think that's sort of my question is there a piece of this, because I think most of this still is under the purview of the town manager. So is there a component of this that needs to involve the select board? I
Like
guess
something
that's,
that says when the select board is triggered to have input or something like that?
A review.
right.
That's a good question.
Well, maybe there should be a mechanism to advise the select board of action taken in this regard.
I mean, in general, I don't want to know, well, I'm not going to know anything, but I mean, the board doesn't want to know that we have, I'm just making something up, but a computer that we're getting, a computer's not a good word, I know we're going to just trash it, but.
Used tires.
A desk. We don't need to know that is an absolutely terrible use of the time. So I guess we need to decide, is there is it just weapons? Is there something that the town owns that the board wants to be able to weigh in on? And if not, then this policy is fine. But this conversation started from a point of this board needing to create a policy, and does that policy include a role for the board? I guess that's my broader question for us.
It's a good question. It seems like there ought to be some kind of a trigger that would basically tip the select board off as to what the decisions that are being made. And maybe we need to come up with some categories to say those would be the areas where a trigger would occur, where we should be brought into the review process.
Okay? And what would that be then?
What other items
Besides
besides
weapons.
weapons
Well,
would
it says
it
it-
be?
Well,
Go ahead.
I think disposal of some toxic waste materials is something we should be taking a look at. We've certainly had our dumping issue, I know they're not gone now, but on the base, but we should have some overview in terms of how.
We had an issue of our own with storage of asbestos pipe that had been removed during water line replacements.
Yeah.
But that's different than this.
Yeah.
Because
it
this is disposing of surplus material
That's true.
versus
You're right.
sort of disposing of hazardous material in the normal course of how we have to. This is encompassing the idea of, we have something that has lasted its life for what we want, but it may still have a value, and we are disposing of it and recapturing some potential value. So I guess it would.
Well, I beg to differ with you, because, it says surplus material, supplies, and equipment. That's pretty broad. And I think there are probably some instances where it is a public health issue, and it ought to be brought to our attention, and we ought to be informed about what the proposed method of disposal is. And then there could be a monetary value behind some of it.
I wanted to point out the very last part says for commodities like firearms that are treated uniquely in the marketplace. I think that's a good line. If something is treated uniquely in the marketplace, we know desks and tires and computers and those kinds of things are not necessarily unique in the marketplace, but things like firearms or cranes or something would be considered unique, and I think that could be the kind of triggering language.
Mm-hmm. I think that's good. Good point.
So how do we write that? For items, for commodities like these, the select board these items need to be brought to the select board for consideration before town manager decision?
I think that's a pretty good shot at the language. That sound appropriate?
Can we defer to town managers?
Or select board to be notified before the disposition of materials for that category, a unique category. I think the town manager can discern what falls into unique category. It's probably good.
Wind turbines?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, yeah.
Well, maybe deemed hazardous.
So work with town council to, put some meat on the bones in that direction.
And
Thank you.
So are
And
we
this-
asking for notification or?
Yes.
Or, okay, so that's different from it coming in front of us to have any input on where it goes. Notification I see is different.
Well, if we get notification, then we might suggest that it be an agenda item.
Notification of proposed disposition? So this is what the town manager would say, this is what I'm thinking about
Proposing?
doing, this is what I'm proposing.
We would then direct the town manager. I mean, these things
Okay.
say may. So
Right.
say, I'm just gonna use the firearms, because it's what we're talking about. The firearm issue comes before the board in this course of this, right? The town manager indicates these firearms, are being disposed of. The way I would understand it is the board would then make a recommendation to the town manager for how that property would be disposed of.
In these unique circumstances.
But it's isn't it the reverse? The town manager would proposing to the select board.
Well, he might, but at the end of the day, I think that the board, at the end of the day, can tell the town manager what to do. So if he says to us, here's what I propose, and the board says, we don't agree because of whatever reason, my whole point is it brings it before the board
brings
for a
it in front of us,
discussion
right.
and for a direction.
For approval.
Right, so just like anything else that the town manager brings to us for, I mean, we have it all the time, vote to authorize, vote to, right, vote to approve, whatever the town manager brings before us. We need something that makes it clear so that Julian knows when, he's not gonna come before us for all of these things.
Right.
It's simply in those unique circumstances. He would bring before us and say, we need to get rid of this item.
And that's the difference between notification and the board weighing in and directing. And I think we need to be clear about that in that particular circumstance.
And I'd like to make a provision in this last item that I don't think it should be limited to the $10,000 because of the advice that I received from the Inspector General's office.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Could I ask that we get some input from town council on this? I know she has spoken to the Inspector General, and
Sure.
also I wanted to, and it may be more that you're not ready to comment on it yet, but I also want to consider the charter implications, because I think under the charter, the procurement is under the domain of the town manager, not the select board.
Okay.
And, I'm not resistant at all to a policy on weapons. That's not what this is about. But just, generically as with respect to the surplus disposal.
Okay. If you're ready to share anything, or we can come back to this after you give it some more review.
I think I just have a couple of initial comments, and then maybe after tonight, we can look at the draft policy again, given the conversation. But I do just want to remind everyone that the role here of the select board is policy creation. And the policy empowers the town manager to act. And that's the essence of the relationship there as far as these kinds of documents go. So what you're doing here by creating this policy is you're allowing the town manager to go forth and handle this. I don't think that the charter allows for sort of a circular process, then for the town manager to have to come back and ask for additional permission. The permission's granted already by the policy. So I think that this should shape part of our conversation here. And we can relook at the language, given the charter implications.
Okay, sounds good.
Makes perfect sense.
All right, we'll take another shot at it on another day. Thank you. Is there anything else on this subject for today? Okay. And now we have discussion of diversity, equity, and inclusion officer position. Was there any comment from the? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, before we close that out.
On March 5th, when you first began speaking about this, Mr. Brown said, absence of select board option to destroy such items, that could be potentially weapons or any other maybe dangerous items. I think if that's going to be the case, and maybe it goes to the purview of the select board rather than the town manager, would that be amenable to Mr. Suso? And Mr. Suso's reply was, it would be the board's policy, whatever you determine you prefer. I guess what I'm trying to bring up here is that in lieu of the fact that a contract was signed after this discussion. I'm assuming the contract was signed after March 5th. So the clear intent of the board at that time was to address the issue of dangerous items. And Mr. Patterson made quite, I'm not going to read it because you went on for a bit, but he made quite an appeal to the fact that weapons are a special situation, and that he didn't want them traveling to Central America and South America or to other groups in the United States. So I guess what I have a problem with is not what you're discussing right now, but the process, because if this is what was spoken about on March 5th, the process went ahead paying no, giving no weight to what was discussed on March 5th. How is a contract signed for the trade-in or disposal of these weapons after the March 5th Select Board meeting, which seemed to indicate, unless I'm wrong, to the town manager, that we may be going in a different direction here, and the town manager's reply was it would be board policy, and it's whatever you determine. That's it.
Well, that's kind of beyond the scope of this agenda item, honestly, but we will be revisiting that in another meeting. But this is really trying to craft the policy itself, not reviewing any potential action.
I guess what I'm
Not
asking.
really on the agenda tonight.
Okay, I guess what I'm asking is what you're doing right now. If this were to go forth, when does it take effect? And I guess town council would be able to provide me with something like that. But if this were implemented by the select board, if you all voted on it and said, yes, this is what you got the 7 items the way you want them, what's the next logical step? And is it forward, or is it retroactive? How does it work from there? That's the process I'm questioning.
Okay, well, we'll look into that.
I think that's also part of the discussion we have to have. And I guess, I would just say one other thing, that, and I understand what Maura is saying, but I do think we create policy that empowers the town manager. He's empowered through the charter, but he still seeks authorization on a regular basis for specific actions. So I do think that this is an issue specifically around the issue of firearms or special sort of items. I just, when we craft this, I do think that this is important enough that, I think that this board has expressed some real concern about it. So I hope that we are very thoughtful and deliberate about how we craft this. Again, it's not trying to usurp the town manager's authority, but doing the same thing that we do with a lot of other important issues. He has the authority. He brings his recommendations to this board for sort of final votes on things and weigh in.
And
So-
my final comment would be also that we don't want to really paint ourselves into a corner with strict rules on policy. Because say, for instance, we were to craft a policy to say that, old weapons would always be destroyed. That's not flexible enough, because if we have a buyback program where our own officers choose to participate, then I would like to entertain that as well. So there's more to it. Each unique situation could have its own implications. So those are the final thoughts from my point of view. Anybody else? Would you like to comment?
Yes, if I may, my name's Nan Logan. I live in Falmouth, Precinct 1, and if it's not too crazy to say, I really would like to thank you very much for your thoughtful approach to this concern that we have. And it's just impressive to me, the time and energy. I mean, every 2 weeks, you guys spend this very long evening listening to citizens of Falmouth. And this is an issue of deep concern to me, and I appreciate your thoughtful approach to it, and also the approach that is going to solve the problem going forward, or be able to raise the issue going forward. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, if that's the end of discussion on that for tonight, any other public comments? I don't think so. Next is discussion of diversity, equity, inclusion officer position. I know you mentioned Mr. Spivey was not able to join us. Did you want to give us just an update briefly?
Oh, yeah, correct. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the board has in your packet, Mr. Spivey's presented a summary of multiple diversity, equity, inclusion officer-related projects. And I'll just quickly go through those, and to his credit, we appreciate very much Mr. Spivey's hitting the ground running upon his working in this transitional basis. As you've noted from the handout, new programs and collaborations that he has in place already are the Seafarer Initiative, which has to do with teaching boat skills and repair with 10 to 15 students, working with young people, and boat builder Ronald Clark, who I've met, a very impressive individual as well. The Sea Education Association High School Program, he has encouraged and been able to place 2 students there. Cultural Awareness Initiative at the high school. Sea Life Experience, so working with Noah in Woods Hole and with George Lyles, Director of Academic Programs at the Aquarium. Cape Verdean Museum, coordination of student visits there. Cape Cod Voices, planning of cultural awareness and expression related to women of color with Miranda Alves, president and co-founder of Cape Cod Voices. And Cape Cod Coast Guard Facility in Woods Hole, initial contact regarding inclusion and existing training, a very important component given the prominence of that facility in New England. Some old and ongoing programs, as Mr. Spivey has identified them, is After School Academy, the Massachusetts Maritime Academy, St. Barnabas Church, working with volunteers, and the After School Academy there, a well-known program. Rupert Gordon and After School Academy, No Place for Hate, as one of the founding members of that important organization, which occupies such an important place in the town of Falmouth. That is ongoing and has an important work to do, which we're fully supportive of. And then Mr. Spivey's also involved in some ongoing discussions about expanding the role and the time available. He's working for us 25 hours a week and turns in a timesheet, which accounts for this very significant set of initiatives that he's involved in. And I do want to acknowledge and thank Mr. Spivey for all that he has done and continues to do as our transitional or acting DEI officer. And I know the board wants to talk about potentially expanding that role in the future.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that as soon as we can.
So, I guess I thought that the school was going to go forward and sort of hire and fund their own full-time. So I would like to see us just fill this position. And, you know, I know it's going to take a while because we need to do a really, you know, I know the challenge we have. We've talked about this, drawing great candidates, because it's just hard to get folks with how, you know, our issues with challenges with housing and everything. So we have Dr. Spivey, you know, he's generous enough to give, to do what he's doing. And obviously most of the work that he's doing right now, these initiatives that he's showing us here are you know, school sort of oriented. But I want to see us post the job and start the process because, you know, we need it. And the school is going to do what they're going to do. And, you know, I think that we had some, you know, my understanding is that there was some sort of helpful weigh-in from prior town council, Frank Duffy, about sort of utilizing the role as it exists at present. But, you know, I think it's important, and we just, you know, we were off to a bumpy start. You know, it was exciting to get this up and going again and finally get this position reconstituted. And I just I don't see the need for any delay. The school has kind of jumped in and they're moving forward, and I want to see us on the town side do the same thing. So I definitely, you know, it's going to take us a while. So I don't see anything we need to work out, we can work out in the interim between posting and finding somebody for the position.
I think one of our biggest challenges is going to be the salary with our cost of living here. I recently learned that the average cost of a home in Falmouth is $700,000, and so a household of, I think it was 2, maybe 4, but an average household needs to make $180,000 to afford a home in Falmouth. So I think if we don't deal with that in some way, we are only going to get people who can afford to live here, which means we're not going to get the widest applicant pool. And that's something that I am concerned about. So I would want to look at budgets, what we can afford. I know we wouldn't want to pay someone $180,000 compared to what else we're paying, but I would want to see what we could do to encourage people to apply at what we can afford. But really think about, when we talk about what we can afford, it's what do we want to make a priority when we're making this salary range.
Agreed. And I think, unless I misunderstood from previous town council, that we didn't have to wait for town meeting to go forward with this.
Well, you do have an appropriation for the salary.
Right.
And that is a limit that you have until it's changed.
Right, but I guess my question and my understanding was that at this point right now, that the school would still be paying for half and the town would be paying for half, and that we never committed to a certain amount of time for the school, and the school has some support right now, so that we could move forward in filling the position. That's my understanding, certainly from Attorney Duffy previously. And I agree with both Megan and Angela that whatever barriers appear to be in front of us, we need to fix them and hire the position. I think we waited long enough in the beginning to get the position back up to speed, and I think any delay is a real disservice to the town. And I think we need to move it quickly.
So what options do we have?
Well, I think the key question, again, is that compensation. I mean, we'd be posting a salary that is, for which the funds are not allocated. We have to be cautious about that. We have to, live within the appropriated funds for both the school and the town position merged, and it's unfortunately not very close to the direction that Angela has identified. That's the practical dilemma.
So the announcement by the school is really just their intent?
Well, the schools have independent authority, and they do not have the limits that we have on the town side.
Yeah.
So
They
the
get
school
to
can
move forward.
specify salary however they care to, and they can,
They're doing it.
they can
Yeah.
do that independently.
They've
They
put
are.
the job out for their DEI officers.
Yes.
The job
It's
is
out.
posted.
It's been
posted,
out
yeah.
for a while.
Yep.
So they're moving ahead and they're autonomous with their budget. But I
So
think.
does that free up the funded position for the town to use then, if they've got the more
Well, they had
flexibility?
50%, the
They're
town had
still paying
50%. It's just a
50%.
single position.
Yeah.
It was split 50/50,
Mm-hmm.
so the total amount that's been budgeted has not changed. That's the
So how is the
practical
school moving forward
reality.
independently? Are they?
They have that authority under the statute.
They have their own budget, they have
Okay,
their
so are
authority, it's separate from the town.
So are they funding then another half a
Yes.
position?
Yes.
And taking back the money from the agreement that we had
My
for
understanding
shared
is that
position?
they're just creating a new full-time position
Right.
within their budgeted revenues and authority without necessarily subtracting from the one that was already
Right.
created.
Okay, then,
So if you
we
think
do
about it, they're
actually
doing
have-
1.5.
So we
Yes.
do actually
Right?
have a full-time position
We can,
already
yes.
created.
We have one we can pursue
Yes.
at a limited salary.
It's
Yes.
the same salary, so the only barrier is that it's the same salary it was originally posted at. That's
Right.
what the barrier is.
Well, with a reduced
So-
workload, so, because now they don't have.
With
to-
a different workload.
Yeah,
Different, yeah.
I mean, I don't know it would be reduced because there's plenty to do.
well, you know what I mean.
But yeah, I do.
Reduced purview, I
Yes,
should
yes.
say.
An easier, in many ways, an easier mission statement in the sense that you are working in one. You're not trying to go between two very different, very distinct
Right.
organizations. Yeah.
So given
But
that,
easier
then,
in the sense, too, that you're not a singleton. You have someone else to at least collaborate with.
Sure,
Because
yeah.
when you only have one, you're out there on your own.
Yep.
And I think having our own with,
Someone
to
from
be
the
able to
town, yes.
collaborate
Someone
with the
from the
schools
schools,
would make sense.
probably what we should have done in the first place. So
So
then, so am I clear then? We could go ahead and hire a full-time person
Yes,
right now,
yes.
And
at the same
My
salary that we
understanding,
have. Yeah.
Right, the same salary, the suggestion is that may not be
I just think it's something we should take a look. I don't think we should wait. I think we should go
Yeah.
ahead and post it.
Yes.
I agree.
But I think when it comes to us revisiting this in our strategic planning session and the budget for the fall, we may want to think about
Agree.
increasing it.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay, and, the stock market's going down, and the economy's gonna slow down, and prices of houses will come down a
Not
little
in
bit
Falmouth. I don't
sometime
think so.
soon.
I
Okay,
just think it's a very long process to hire and onboard someone.
It is.
And, it's.
We're already behind. We're
We should
behind
still
the
get-
schools already.
we should still get started as soon as possible.
Yep, so I would like to see it posted.
Do we need to vote to repost that, or is that something you'll just
Happy
do?
to have you do so, sure.
I would move that we repost the position as soon as possible.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, are you still waiting to talk about the road race? Okay, because we already did that. And now we have, Mr. Suso, do you want to have another comment on that evaluation summary?
Certainly, yeah, as I spoke about back on the 25th. Thank you. Good evening. I want to thank members of the Select Board for the opportunity to comment upon the present performance evaluation as provided for in my current 3-year employment agreement, which was unanimously approved by the Select Board members back in March of 2021. I do want to underscore that I have and I will continue to take very seriously any and all constructive criticism of my performance as town manager. As a reminder to those who are listening, the summary of that evaluation was read at the board's previous meeting on Monday, April 25th, and I had some very brief preliminary comments, so these are the expanded comments, and again, I thank you for that opportunity. Two very serious issues of major concern have arisen within this evaluation period, which undermine the credibility of this summary performance evaluation. First, just a few months following the approval and execution of my present employment agreement, I received a very threatening written communication from Select Board Chair Doug Brown, which included multiple unfounded accusations, and which directed me as town manager to act in a manner inconsistent with and violative of the Falmouth Home Rule Charter. These same written accusations and threat to terminate are a matter of public record. Following several weeks of diligent but unsuccessful efforts to secure a meeting with the full board to productively review and discuss these attempted charter violations, I recognize that my only reasonable alternative was to file a written request with the board for a hearing on a complaint against a public officer. This hearing was ultimately held on November 8th, 2021. The lengthy minutes of that hearing were recently approved by the Select Board and were directed to be released to the public. A copy is posted on the town website, and I'm attaching it to this response, which I'll be providing later this evening. These minutes provide full details of this unprecedented circumstance with which I was unexpectedly confronted and threatened. As town manager, I'm sworn to uphold and honor the Falmouth Home Rule Charter, and I operate with a clearly defined professional code of ethics. This is a responsibility that I take very seriously. I recognize that my responsibility to pursue this egregious charter violation was not a pleasant situation for members of the Select Board. It appears that one or more members were very negatively influenced by this action that I deemed necessary to uphold my charter-defined duties as town manager. This negativism and open hostility were particularly evidenced in the comments of board member Mr. Sam Patterson, as the minutes reflect. At the November 8th hearing, it was the voted determination by all other members of the Select Board that the complaint that I was compelled to file was upheld, affirming that Select Board Chair Doug Brown had indeed violated the Falmouth Town Charter, including his written threat to terminate my employment as town manager. Although he subsequently agreed to have Vice Chair Dr. Nancy Taylor oversee this performance evaluation, Mr. Brown nonetheless inappropriately participated in this evaluation process. The second item of major concern, the Falmouth Town Charter assigns the town manager the responsibility to function as the appointing authority for the town and its staff positions. In August of 2021, Select Board member Megan English Braga submitted an application as a candidate for the town council position being vacated due to the pending retirement of Frank Duffy. Shortly after, I was unexpectedly contacted by Select Board Vice Chair Dr. Nancy Taylor, who encouraged me to consider Ms. English Braga for appointment to the town council position. Although Ms. English Braga was one of 3 finalists for this position, I did not select her for the appointment as town council in January 2022. Under this circumstance, it would have been most appropriate for Ms. English Braga to recuse herself from this annual evaluation process, given the clear appearance of potential conflict with this very significant personnel decision made just a few weeks earlier by me. Although the November 8th minutes referred to above included her strong statements of support for me, just a few months later and following the decision on the town council appointment, Ms. English Braga, for the first time ever, included a, quote, needs improvement determination only in the 2 categories of, quote, leadership and public relations in my performance evaluation. In the numeric score summary evaluation, Ms. English Braga carried forward her, quote, needs improvement score, even though her scores in 9 of the total 11 categories were all either meeting or exceeding expectations. There are legitimate questions as to the respective motivations of these 2 select board members. Further, there is no way to reconcile the summary provided for the numeric scores or the selected comments with actual documented job performance. The summary evaluation report, with the exception of the first 4 summary paragraphs, included universally negative comments selected from board members' evaluations. None of the positive comments from board members were chosen to be included in the final 3 paragraphs. There is a reference to, quote, recent resignations of town employees, specifically at the upper management and director positions, unquote. While there have been several such vacancies over the past 12 months, only 2 of them involved resignations. The fact is that the vast majority of staff vacancies involved employees leaving due to retirement. All such major staff vacancies have now been permanently filled with well-qualified professionals, with the sole exception of the building commissioner position, which is being very ably staffed on a transitional basis by a state-certified professional building commissioner, while this remaining search is ongoing. Regarding the 2 resignations, these involved personnel matters which are confidential under Massachusetts statute. Although the 3rd paragraph acknowledges that the town manager has appropriately responded to all requests for updates on a specific affordable housing project, this is nonetheless presented in a negative light, choosing to be critical and suggesting that by not providing regular public updates, that the manager is therefore somehow lacking in, quote, leadership in affordable housing, in spite of the considerable evidence to the contrary. Demonstrated progress in completed affordable housing construction has been consistent and ongoing over the past 5 years. The town's affordable housing plan has been updated and adopted, and the Falmouth Affordable Housing Fund now has financial resources available at an all-time high to encourage and facilitate this mission-critical construction. As recently as July 2021, Governor Charlie Baker and Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito both visited Falmouth for a formal public gathering in a roundtable discussion on affordable housing, which I was invited to participate in. This included congratulating the town and acknowledging the recently completed and highly successful Little Pond Place affordable housing project, which the town sponsored in successful partnership with the Falmouth Housing Corporation on the town-owned parcel on Spring Bars Road. The 4th paragraph suggests that, quote, there is very little rapport between Mr. Suso and the public. It is further suggested that, quote, it is constant and it plagues almost every project or policy the select board wishes to advance, unquote. Also suggested is that, quote, many people consistently cite a lack of trust in Mr. Suso, unquote. This continued selectively chosen negativity is clearly inconsistent with a positive comment from the Select Board and included in the single positive first paragraph as follows, quote, most of the projects ultimately managed by the town manager have come in on time or earlier and on budget or under budget, unquote. The facts clearly confirm that Falmouth voters have consistently trusted and overwhelmingly supported multiple proposed debt exclusions during my tenure as town manager. The $9.7 million new senior center, the $41 million new water filtration facility, and the $37 million wastewater expansion into the Little Pond service area are three such examples. In May 2020, Falmouth voters strongly supported the first permanent town override in over 30 years to allow the hiring of 8 additional full-time firefighters to enhance public safety. At their April 2022 annual meeting, town meeting members approved the proposed $146 million operating budget for fiscal year 23, continuing a trend in consistent support for town budget operating initiatives. Any suggested lack of trust by the public has not been borne out by the demonstrated facts. As town manager, I have the responsibility to make many challenging and mission-critical decisions on behalf of the town, some of which unavoidably involve controversial issues. In concluding the fourth and last evaluation paragraph, it is stated in summary that, quote, Mr. Suso tends to resist or fails to support planning to address the growing risks of inadequate workforce affordable housing, environmental degradation due to inadequate sewage treatment, predicted property and infrastructure damage due to flooding from sea level rise, and increased storm damage caused by global warming, unquote. I have already commented on the town's successful affordable housing initiatives. I've also noted the substantial initiatives in the water and wastewater areas in protection of the Falmouth environment. The remaining 2 goals represent the individually advocated goals of a member of the Select Board. These suggested goals were not included in the voted and adopted goals set for the town manager, and upon which the town manager, by written agreement, was to be evaluated. Following my preliminary comments to the board on this annual evaluation, presented, as I noted, on Monday, April 25th, 2 weeks ago, a question was raised from Select Board member Ms. Angela Scott Price as to whether the board was limited to the 4 goals expressly stated in the goal evaluation or were other factors to be considered. There was an immediate response from Ms. Megan English Braga, who suggested that the addition of other factors was appropriate. To clarify the facts, I will be attaching a copy of an excerpt from the Town Manager Employment Agreement, which clearly states, under the selection on Town Manager evaluation, as follows. Quote, annually, the board and the town manager shall define the goals and objectives which they determine necessary for the proper operation of the town and the attainment of the board's policy objectives, said goals and objectives to be reduced to writing, unquote. There is no provision in our joint written agreement for individual Select Board members to unilaterally generate their own personal goals or other factors for the town manager and to evaluate the town manager on their individual chosen goals. By a written agreement, all goals must be specifically identified, voted, and approved by the full board. Now my concluding comments. A reading by an objective party will, I believe, confirm that this summary evaluation includes comments that are generalized, significantly lacking in specific facts, and furthermore internally contradictory as noted. I do want to thank those members of the board that employed a fair and constructive approach to this performance evaluation. As I noted on April 25th, having successfully achieved each of the written jointly agreed upon goals, it is puzzling that some members chose to rate me as, quote, needing improvement in that area. Even with the reviews that were retaliatory or improperly biased, the numerical average of all categories averaged slightly over 2, which is defined as, quote, meets expectations, under the standards agreed by the Select Board, and I'll have an attachment to that effect as well. An overall rating of, quote, needs improvement is not justified by supporting facts, objective criteria, or by the members' own numerical ratings. For those members that rated me poorly in areas such as leadership and work relationships, I am left to wonder how I would have been rated if I had treated town employees in such a disrespectful and arbitrary manner. In summary, I consider this performance evaluation process and the results of that process to be incompatible with acceptable professional standards and a direct violation of my employment agreement with the town of Falmouth. A copy of this response should be included in my personnel file. I ask that it appear in your minutes for tonight's meeting as well, and I thank you with sincerity and respect, Julian M. Suso.
All right, thank you, Mr. Suso.
If I may, Mr. Chair?
Certainly.
So, let me just go back to the events that Julian notes for September when you sent him an email. Probably one of the first phone calls I think Julian made was to me, and he made many calls to me. And we had a number of conversations about sort of the best course of action, because it frankly was a very difficult situation. And the hope was, how do we get get sort of from point A to point B in a way that helps this board get back to doing the best work that we can do for the town. And it did take a while to sort that out, but as Julian knows, Nancy then stepped in as vice chair and really worked to make sure that we had a very thorough, appropriate, constructive, and professional meeting in which this board supported Julian, and in which you took responsibility for having sent an email. I think you said, right before or around the time when you had COVID or you weren't feeling well, and you sent it off without really thinking about it. And this board, in fact, supported Julian. And that was a process. None of those things happened quickly. And it was done methodically, and it was done very thoroughly. And Nancy, I think, handled that superbly. And I will be candid, the reason why I didn't run, a big part of it is because I have a job with the trial court. So for Julian to indicate that I somehow have some sort of retaliatory feeling towards him because I didn't get a position is first and foremost so deeply insulting. I've had an excellent working relationship with Julian. I have supported him at times when, frankly, he didn't have support in some sectors in this community. And I've gone to bat for him. And for him to indicate that I would be that small and that short-sighted, that somehow I wouldn't be thrilled that we would have someone with the level of expertise that Maura has to come and work for the town, is not only without any kind of factual support, but it is in fact contradicted by the very reality that I have another job I'm transitioning to, for which I can no longer be in an elected position, which is why I'm not running this time. So that to say that I'm retaliating is absurd. The comments, I will speak for myself in the comments I made. The comments I made are based on the fact that over 6 years, I have spent a significant amount of that time, and particularly in the last year, spending an inordinate amount of time speaking with constituents about, frankly, and I want to be very respectful, negative feelings and negative, sort of connotations that many in the public have connected with our town manager. And when he proposes something or puts something forward, I can only speak for myself, and the rest of the board can say if this happens to them, I am inundated. Phone calls, people at my office, emails. And I spend time trying to bolster and support what the board wants to get done, because folks there's not a level of credibility or trust there. And the fact that there isn't an awareness or even a recognition of that, and the fact that Julian would think that this board is making that up and somehow we benefit from making that up, that we would derive some sort of gain from tearing you down, is what is indicative of the problem. Because failing to recognize that there is a disconnect with the public is part of what makes this job very hard. And it shouldn't be that hard for the board. The board should be able to lean on the town manager, and it should be a team effort. And when we have very credible, very dedicated folks in town who've been around for a really long time and worked with lots of town managers and lots of boards coming to us on a regular basis saying, I want to support that, but I don't know if I can, or, just with this drumbeat, it makes this job very difficult. And I think that we are in a position that I've never seen this board in 6 years, and it's incredibly unfortunate, and I don't know how this board will get past that. That won't be part of my charge. But I really, truly hope that the town manager would recognize that there isn't a person on this board that has anything to gain from being anything other than perfectly honest with you about their perception of the work that you're doing. You don't have to agree with their perception, but to attribute some ulterior motive to that assessment is going to obliterate any opportunity to grow from something that can be a difficult point of conflict, which we may have to sort of live through and grow from. But to go to that level and to indicate that it's somehow everybody here has some other objective is incredibly unfortunate, and I think misses real opportunity to say, what is happening here? What is going wrong? Where can we try and have better communication? But it's real. I don't know what else to say other than I hear from department heads. I hear from staff, present and past. I hear from people when they leave. And we hear from people in the town. And not every single person is negative. That's that would be, completely untrue. Not every single person has a negative thing to say about Julian. There are positive things in your review. There are lots of positive things that have happened. But when we're hearing that, when that's what we are being presented with, that is part of what our evaluation and our assessment is, because that impedes our ability to get policy done, main objectives, important work done for the town. So that's...
So, Mr. Suso, when I sent you that email, I admitted that it was incorrect, but it was a reach out to you to say, hey, I see this is a problem that we have, and I was trying to get working with you to try to work towards a solution. And instead, you chose to blow it up and send it all to all the other select board members, and pointing out that, you're not subject to open meeting law, so you can do that, and which I've heard you have been repeating in other times, which is unfortunate, because the board is actually responsible for any open meeting law violation that you might perpetuate, even though you are personally exempt. So that's a concern. The problem that I had, and the reason I sent that email, was because we were just I felt like we were not getting information that this board needed to function efficiently. And I think now that you've brought it up, one of those communications, one of those issues was there's significant work before this board, and there's a lot of times that you could give us updates, but instead we hear about, car accidents and, stuff that really is not before the board. So that was part of my criticism, and it was my hope that with that email, we would build a stronger, better relationship, but instead it turned completely the opposite way and turned into just another big problem. So the way that was handled is also unfortunate, and it was my own fault that I started it, trying to talk to you that way, and I shouldn't have, but that's the frustration that I was feeling as serving as chair. I think there's a lot of issues that are going on. I feel like there's a culture in town where people don't feel the ability to speak freely. I feel like there's some kind of control issues where people are not rewarded for being open and candid with the public, and I think that's a problem that I really have a big problem with. Everyone, department heads, everyone should be able to speak freely without fear of retribution and punishment. We've acted on items that we voted on, and there's been little to no action. We voted on coastal resiliency issues. I don't get any reports of any action. When we ask you for updates, we say, you say, well, we'll get back to you, and then we don't find out that there's anything really happening till we push it again. So it's just a common occurrence. That's why the criticism came up. And rather than getting better, it's gotten worse. We had nothing in our packet on several items in recent months, that information that should be in there. So I just don't feel like you're really doing a collaborative effort with us, and that's increasing instead of getting better. Since our problem, it's gotten worse. So that's my feeling.
I don't understand problem. What is that, Mr. Chairman? Our problem.
The problem of you not willing to share information with this board.
I see. I hadn't heard you say that before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well,
I'd like to make a couple comments. I will say I am deeply disappointed at the way that Megan has been portrayed as retaliatory in this situation. I don't know what else to say besides I'm just disappointed in that. The situation that happened with Doug in the fall and the emails, that was one of the most awkward situations I've been in, and I have been doing diversity and inclusion work for many years, and I will say that us having supported the town manager in that and somewhat against Doug was the right thing to do. And I'm also disappointed that that is not a show of the support that the board had for you in such an uncomfortable and unforeseen and just not good situation. I'm also a bit disappointed that several of my comments from my evaluation are taken out of context. So I decided to pull it up. And I don't know if it's appropriate for me to read any comments from it or not, but
I don't know that either.
I'll just say that.
I was responding to the summary.
Right, okay.
Rather than the individual comments.
Okay.
Just to clarify.
Okay. Some of the things in the summary were specifically things that I mentioned. So I will just say that, like anything else taken out of context of the greater paragraph that they were in, distorts what they were meant to say. So while it may seem that the summary was taking things out of context, I know I could look at what I put in my evaluation and see that reflected in the summary. And so to then hear some of those comments flipped back in a way that's difficult for me to describe without reading it is frustrating, and I think brings the point of the concern that there isn't an opportunity for discussion and for growth in the way that we would like to see. After the end of every paragraph of my evaluation, I had a recommendation or a suggestion with a specific example and a specific example of how that could be changed and how that could be improved. And unfortunately, I haven't seen those things. So then to hear them out of context is very frustrating. And I will just leave with, I know I have not been on the board very long, but I have also spent quite a bit of time, unfortunately, talking to people who do not feel that they have a lot of trust in the town manager's office. And I will conclude there.
I could make a comment.
Oh, go ahead.
But I don't mind waiting on either. I think my summary is I'm finishing my 8th year as a select board member. That I've been in to talk to Julian on numerous occasions, basically on behalf of the citizens of the town, not for any personal reasons, for my own personal gain. And over that time, I guess I really feel like Julian has failed to gain my confidence that he has the skill set to manage the complex challenges that this town faces. And we can go on, he actually listed the ones that I put into the evaluations, situations like coastal resiliency, environmental degradation, housing affordability, economic vitality, supportive infrastructure, effective staff, all of that while using prudent financial policies. And it's not simple, and I don't for a moment suggest that it is. It's a difficult set of complex challenges that have to be balanced. But too many times, I feel like I have run into resistance, and I think I could say that the town has run into resistance from Julian about addressing some of these things, and including changing the policy or creating policy statements that actually weren't in line with those that I felt like our board had actually come up with, and only to be called on it and then change. Well, that's not a basis for trust. We talk about, the number of fire stations. Well, it was a 5-station model. Then it was a 4-station model. And then we said, wait a minute, let's not just knock out any stations. So let's just wait and see how it all works out. If we build another station, let's see what the response times are, and let's go from there. That's just an example. And like I said, I've just lost confidence that Julian has the skill set to manage a complex town like Falmouth with all of its, strategic risks that really need to be addressed. We're a vulnerable community in many ways, and we see it emerging. And these are not issues that are new. They've been here, addressed. The town has been facing these for the last probably 12 years. And, we're getting behind on them. We're getting behind on all of them. Now, can one person solve them all? No, and I don't expect that. But we need a leader who basically will work with the town, give us the vision of how we can address this, balance it against the financial demands that would be required to do that. And I just never have felt like Julian was out there leading us to show us the path forward in a way that gave me confidence that we would be a better town 5 years, 10 years from now. That's my comment.
So I'd like to echo a little bit of what Angela said in the beginning. I absolutely supported Megan's candidacy for town council, and I believe that she would absolutely be an addition. And I'm glad we have Maura. That seemed to work out fine. Not once, Julian, was Megan retaliatory, or did she speak negatively about you for not hiring her? Not once. And so that, to me, sort of hit a chord of, you're just so way off on that. And so that is an issue. I also spent much time, particularly my first year, seeing pockets of negativity in the town. And you, in some ways, expect that, right, in certain areas when you're in the position that you have. However, over this past year, it has permeated our town, and I have said this to you, and that the tide, there's no stemming the tide. I spend just as much time talking to people, trying to present sort of your argument about how you're doing things, and it's just overwhelming now, the negativity. I did have issues around leadership, and I'll give you two current examples. Firstly, the DEI position. I think in terms of being a leader and knowing how important that position is to this town, I would have liked to have seen you get out ahead of that and go for it. And, I had conversations with Frank, so I sort of knew how to do it, but I think that it's really important to the town, and it was a missed opportunity. The other most recent piece is with the road race piece. I think a little bit of time and effort and difficult conversations with the chief and with the road race and back and forth, I think that would have prevented it from coming to the board to have to take a vote either against our department head and our person who is responsible for public safety in the town, or for the Falmouth Road Race, which they do an awful lot of good for this town. And in the 11th hour, we were scrambling to meet with the chief last week, to meet with the road race today, to really dissect numbers, to come up with the fact that the 10,000 was going to work, and really coming up with how that was going to work. But I think that was something that you could have done. And so the public relationship and leadership, I've really watched that deteriorate. And that is very, very disappointing for me.
You know, Mr. Suso, the first year I was on this board, my first review, my first evaluation of you, I came into your office the next day, I don't know if you remember, and I apologized for giving you such a bad review. And I said, I'm sorry, but this is the way I see it, that I think you can do better, and I hope we can work together to do that. That was my very first review, and I was already being critical of the performance that I was seeing. And I don't think I've really had a positive review in the other 5 years either, so. My story hasn't changed. I'm sorry that it's taken this long to get this. I guess we should probably go back and look at the other evaluations and see how they shaped up, but I think mine is pretty consistent with other years. Do you have any further comments that you'd like to make to this board?
I put my comments in writing.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need to vote to include those in the record?
I believe so.
Second.
As well as other comments made here will be part of the record as well in the minutes, I suppose.
Yep. Well, I think Julian had just requested that they be included in the minutes and in the, in his personnel.
I'm
I think
agreeable to
he'd
that.
ask
And personnel file as well,
personnel
please.
file and in the minutes, so I would move for both.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So now, in
We need to adjourn to
anticipation of this situation, we are going to adjourn to executive session to consult amongst ourselves, and we will return to open session as quickly as possible.
I would second your motion. I think you're moving to, under Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to discuss contract negotiations with non-union personnel, town manager, discussion and possible vote on action of town manager's contract.
Correct.
Roll call vote. Ms. Stark.
Scott Price, aye.
Patterson, aye.
English Braga, aye.
Taylor, aye.
And Brown, aye.
Mr. Chair, I would move that the select board vote to request that town manager Julian Suso resign pursuant to Section 3, subsection B of the employment agreement dated March 22nd, 2021.
Second.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Next item is town.
Mr. Chairman, pardon me.
Yes, sir.
I'd like the record to show that I politely decline. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And would you like to do any town manager supplemental report, Mr. Suso?
Thank you. Pardon me while I find my summary sheet here. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The upcoming annual municipal election, as we know, is Tuesday, May 17th. The board's next regular meeting is Monday, May 23rd. Town Hall and town administrative offices will be closed on Monday, May 30th for the Memorial Day holiday. I am pleased to confirm that we've received a formal written response from the Clean Water Trust offering to work with the town in negotiating the remaining $2.9 million of financial obligation on Win 2 that was incurred approximately 15 years ago. We're continuing to work with legal counsel on the details as we also proceed with the procurement and disposition work on both Wind 1 and Wind 2 that we have reported on in the past. Also, I want to clarify, because there's been some misinformation, not with the board, but elsewhere about this contact from the Clean Water Trust and a figure of $975,000. That is merely the minimum amount that the Clean Water Trust said they would consider accepting in completion of that obligation, but it's still subject to deliberation and further discussion with them. So that is not a final product or a completed arrangement as yet. Work has begun on the all-purpose trail from Palmer Avenue into Goodwill Park, which is in preparation for the ultimate coming installation of the hawk signal, allowing bicyclists and pedestrians to more safely cross Route 28 from the Shining Sea Bikeway into Goodwill Park. And again, I noted that I was politely declining. I also want to say I'm respectfully declining the suggested request to resign. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any reports from board members?
No.
Just to mention that this Friday is the Cape and Islands Municipal Leadership Association meeting. It's going to start at 8 o'clock. It's going to be held at Cape Cod Tech. I think I will probably be going if anybody wants to ride along, but there's a Zoom link also so that you don't have to physically go there.
I'm sad to miss that one. I haven't been to school yet, but I'll be at a graduation.
I understand.
I don't have a report of my own, but I'd just like to comment again on Dan Gesson's nice report that he sent for
Yeah,
us.
so
You know, he thoroughly
Very detailed.
explains
Yes,
everything that he's been doing.
detailed.
Yeah, he's doing a really great job.
He was a wonderful choice for that position that he
Yes.
ran.
Yeah.
And if, just on the discussion of future agenda items, I just want to make sure that the high school project makes its way onto one of our agendas.
Okay.
The one you were talking about with the with
civic,
the students, yeah.
Their
Right.
civic action project.
That's great.
I do have something else I'd like to add. So we talked a while ago about adding a meeting with the Affordable Housing Committee.
Yes.
I've since learned that the Housing Assistance Corporation has actually already hired a consultant to look at all of the land on the Cape. They looked at where HAC wanted to do affordable housing and where the Association to Preserve Cape Cod wanted to not build anything. And the consultant created a map where they overlap both of those and then found the areas where they didn't overlap, so places that might be buildable. And when I talked to Elisa last week, I think she said it would be available soon. So I would like to bring that to the board when it's available to start our discussion. Because I had mentioned before I was interested in bringing in a consultant to do some of that kind of work, and they've already got a jump start on it.
Great.
So I think it also might be great to invite someone from HAC, like Elisa or somebody else, to talk about, to present that and then other work that they've done that we can piggyback off of rather than starting from scratch.
Okay.
Can I just add to that? I mean, the Cape Cod Commission, really over the last 8 years, has done an extensive amount of studies about how to increase affordable housing and all the problems and issues that are resolved, environmental issues and what have you. It would really be nice for them to be part of this discussion as well.
Yeah.
And I know, they're prepared to make a progress report on that.
That
Yeah,
sounds
maybe
good.
like that'd be a great, the two of them together.
So are we talking about a workshop sort of meeting with these parties, or is this something that we would be pursuing offline and then presenting results to the board? How are,
I think a workshop type thing, because I know that some people have reached out from the public who said they'd be interested in hearing that discussion. So I think that some sort of public workshop would be a good idea. So yeah, maybe not something that we could do relatively soon if we really want to invite a lot of people to it, stakeholders and, but I don't think we should do anything like we're doing at the high school for Mayflower Wind. I don't think anything that big is
Okay.
reasonable. I think if, maybe in this room would be appropriate.
Sounds good. Any other items? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.